What's up, my people? I appreciate y'all joining me once again on another edition of the Rodcast, the second here on Orangebloods. And man, it is a beautiful thing. Had a great response to the first show yesterday, and I appreciate all you guys. Appreciate all the messages. So let's get it popping. Let's not waste any time. We want to get right into it. There's Texas football to discuss, so we will. Also, I'll tell you guys why Dak Prescott and Viagra have a lot in common. I'll get into that. That's a take I got for the Cowboys fans down the line. We're also going to get into Tom Brady's B-Day. It's the B-Day for the GOAT, so we got to address that. I got a special way that I want to address that, so we'll get into it. I appreciate all you guys. Keep hitting us up. I'll try to do better at responding to the super chats, so hit us up, all right, so whenever you get a chance. Also, my Twitter, I got to give that out. Didn't give it out at all yet last show, but at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. All right, let's jump right into it. So there is a special athlete on the 40 acres on offense for Texas. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them, but there's one that I'm focused on today. And for Sark, actually, it actually may be a chance for him to have a record-breaking performance this season at this position, because the ceiling and really the immense potential for this player is just through the roof. I was looking at Pro Football Focus today. They were ranking like the top 50 players in all of college football, and I saw they had 2 Texas players ranked, and they're counting down. So I think this was like the 40 through 50 or something like that. And they actually had 2 Longhorns. It was Xavier Worthy, and they also had JT Sanders, and it was like 50 through, I don't know, 30 something or whatever it may have been. They actually had JT Sanders ranked ahead of Xavier Worthy, and like they're just ranking their players. And I thought about it for a second, and honestly, I'm not gonna have that debate. Who's better, JT Sanders or Xavier Worthy? They're playing 2 different positions. But this season, I'll say that I could see Sark running the passing offense, like basically running the passing game through JT Sanders early on. He could feature him early on. Listen, if you're a defensive coordinator, you're going to take X-Man away. You know Sark is obsessed with him. He's obsessed with X-Man. Of course he is. X-Man's great. And even last year, we'll get into it, he was force-feeding the football to X-Man to his own detriment. All right, it was a negative for the team at times. But Sark is going to get the ball to his guys. He did say this year, though, that he's going to have more, he's got more receivers in the rotation. We'll see what that means. But anyway, I digress. Getting back to JT Sanders. Think about it, guys. We just haven't had a 5-tool tight end on the 40 acres in a really, really long time. You can argue Sark hasn't had a tight end with JT Sanders' ceiling and upside, arguably, since he's been a play caller. There have been some really good tight ends that he's coached, but JT Sanders has that kind of upside. And for Texas, basically the tight end position in the last 12, 13, 14 even years or so has, maybe even going back further, that has been a bit of an endangered species on the 40 acres. Jermichael Finley, you can put him in that category if you're one of those guys. But David Thomas and Bo Scaife, it's been a long time since we talked about the tight end position the way we talked about it last season with JT Sanders. And you go look at the records. I mean, it's amazing. I didn't realize this either. You got to go look it up. I mean, the guy, if he had 54 receptions last year, that was the most by a tight end in a single season in program history. 613 receiving yards, second all time in a single season. 5 touchdowns. That's third all time in a single season for a tight end. Here are the records, just so you know how close he is to breaking them. The most receiving yards in a single season for a tight end are 637. He had 613. That's just a few more targets, or probably a couple of drops that he had too. The most receiving yards in a game for a tight end, Jermichael Finley, 149 versus Oklahoma. That's got to feel sweet. That's got to be. So as a matter of fact, I saw Jermichael Finley not too long ago. 149 yards. I think JT Sanders can get that in one of these games. I really do. Most receiving yards by a tight end in a career, David Thomas, 1,367. Hell, all JT Sanders got to do is basically have a little bit better season than he had last year in yards, and he'll get that. He gets 700 yards receiving, he'll be approaching that record too. Most receiving touchdowns in by a tight end in a career, that's David Thomas, 15. That's a big number. I mean, shout out to David Thomas. I don't know if JT Sanders is going to be there, because I think if he has a great season, he may decide to leave. Who knows? And most receiving touchdowns in the game, DJ Grant, 3 of them for a tight end versus UCLA. So honestly, he could, if you go look at it, the Texas record for most touchdown catches in a single season, I believe, is 8 by Pat Fitzgerald in 1995. And most catches for a tight end in a single game is 10. In a career is 98. So 98, JT Sanders, if he has a career like he did last year, he'll break that record. There are a lot of different ones he could approach, even the single game receptions, even though 10 is a high number, single game receiving yards. He could end up, if he has a great year and Sark features him, like I think he will early on, if teams are taking away X-Man and he's matched up on tight ends and safeties there that are ill-equipped to cover him, you could see him start off like on a kind of a gangbusters streak where early on teams aren't necessarily game planning for him, and Sark should feature him like he features in that opening script. You guys recognize opening script? We should count how many times X-Man is targeted on the opening script. It's even with Bijan there, it was probably still at least 4-5 times he'd find a way to get the ball or target X-Man. And I think he should do that in some games matchup wise with JT Sanders. And if he does, he'll lead us to the most prolifically, achieving tight end. It'll be statistically the most prolifically, most high achieving tight end in Texas football history, if Sark features him early on. And I think there's a chance he could feature him early on. The thing about the tight end position, we call it an endangered species. I've become obsessed for some reason with national parks. My wife actually took me to Glacier National Park. It was awesome. From then on, your boy started studying national parks. So I started studying like Yellowstone and stuff like that. It turns out they, speaking of endangered species, they reintroduced the gray wolf to the ecosystem of Yellowstone, like because 25 years ago, they basically, reintroduced it and wanted to see what the effects would be, what the butterfly effect would be of reintroducing the gray wolf, because they eradicated the gray wolf in Yellowstone in like the 20s. And they did it for different reasons. I'm not going to go into that. I don't want to bore you. The point is this. What they found out is when they reintroduce the gray wolf into the ecosystem. You can go Google this and get all the details if you want to. But they found that it affected tons of different animals and species and different smaller subsets of the ecosystem. For instance, basically without the wolf there, the coyotes, they became basically the kings of that ecosystem. And they ran rampant. The elks, they used to migrate and have different patterns, so they remained very stagnant. And since they were stagnant, then they overgrazed on all the willows and all the elks, all the willows and all the different trees and all the different aspens. And since they overgrazed on all of that kind of stuff, the beavers, who usually use that for the dams, didn't have it for the dams that they would build. The dams would provide shade that would cool the water and the streams within Yellowstone, so the actual temperature of the water would rise. And on top of that, that would kill the fish because the temperature in the water would rise. They also killed a lot of songbirds because the songbirds didn't have anywhere to nest because all of the trees were being overgrazed by the elks and all of the different deer populations. And when they put the wolf back into the ecosystem, they found that all of that reset and balanced itself out. Fascinating. Essentially, long way of saying that I believe JT Sanders can have that effect on the ecosystem of the Texas offense. Reintroducing a real 5-tool tight end back into the offense. By the way, Sark says that the second most important position in his offense is tight end. Those are his words. He said that. And I believe he is referring to the balance the tight end brings to the ecosystem of your offense. It is the connection between the spread ideology and your kind of pro philosophy. And Sark is a West Coast guy who wants to play bully ball and be able to essentially what he calls, kind of he runs a pro style offense with the West Coast principles, but the tight end can bind the power elements. And you talk about play action and RPO game. The tight end can help you play those very deceptive psychological games with the defense, right? If you want to have a play like a trick play where the tight end is heavily involved in the deception, because a lot of the front seven guys can read the tight end. So you can have them on a delayed block and then go. You can have them doing all types of things in terms of blocking initially and then releasing late release, delayed release. And Sark is big about deception. He loves the RPO game. He loves play action pass game. So I think if he features JT Sanders early on, I think you could have a record-breaking performance from JT Sanders. So there you go. I know I went a little deep on it. I didn't mean to go that deep, but you can go look it up. It's fascinating. Your boy's becoming kind of a nerd. Been hanging around Craigway a long time. But yeah, go look it up. The Gray Wolf being reintroduced into Yellowstone is a fascinating domino effect. I'm telling you, it's great. And I think JT Sanders, think about it. Our offensive identity crisis at Texas, a lot of it was without a real tight end, right? When you go think about it, basically a lot of it started to happen when you lost your true 5-tool tight ends. Or at least they became an endangered species, to continue the analogy. They became an endangered species on the 40 acres. And what time was that? When was that? Probably about 08. When was Jermichael Finley done with? Probably around there, whenever that was done. That's about that time. And right around then, even though Texas in 08 and 09, they were competing for championships, that 08 team had a very unique offensive identity, because Colt was just, he was next level. He was extraordinary in terms of his accuracy, and he actually had the ability to run. He had arguably the greatest bromance between a quarterback and a receiver in the history of college football, between him and Jordan Shipley. Yeah, I mean, talk about chemistry between a wide receiver and a quarterback. You couldn't quantify that. They had what Babyface coined that whip appeal. They didn't have to talk. They just kind of knew, they had love language going on. All right. And you had Quan Cosby, who was a beast. Quan was a beast. And they had Chris Obanaya, if y'all remember, who kind of worked as he was a utility back. And sometimes they use him, in flex positions in different ways. They use him in brilliant. I'll give you a random stat about Chris Obanaya. I used to call this my 30-40 club. Guys with at least 30 rushes, and the guys with at least 30 rushes and 40 receptions in a season. Yeah, 30-40 club. And the guys in the last guys at Texas in the 30-40 club were Chris Obanaya and then Eric Metcalf before him. If I'm not mistaken, that's it. It was guys at Texas who have had at least 30 rushes and 40 receptions in a season at Texas. Chris Obanaya was the last one in 2008. And then Eric Metcalf in 1988. Eric Metcalf did it twice. He did it twice. In 1988, and I believe he did it like in 1987 before that, or maybe I'm not sure about the timeline. I know he did it twice though. Go look it up. So that was what was unique about that year in 2008. You had Chris Obanaya filling a really unique role with that team. And they did a great job of weaponizing Chris Ogbonnaya. But in terms of the offensive identity crisis for Texas, you guys know it actually started around that time. We just didn't see it because you had such spectacular frontline talent that would mask it. But it actually started around that time. The decline, it started around that time. And then in 2009, Texas really didn't, it was amazing what they did because everybody knew pretty much it was Colt McCoy going to Jordan Shipley. And they had some other weapons. You had, you had a speedy Marquise Goodwin out there who could, you could threaten you on the edge. You had some weapons, but that was the identity of the offense. Pretty much it was Colt to Jordan Shipley. They still couldn't stop it. And at times they were doubling them. They would move Jordan Shipley around. Fascinating formational advantages schematically for Greg Davis, and he'll get enough credit for that. But even then, I think that offense was limited in what they could do in running the football, and the offensive line at the time wasn't a dominant offensive line. It was good, but it wasn't a dominant offensive line. And then in 2010, everything just falls off a cliff, and it fell off a cliff because it was already on the decline. I don't think it was just, I think it was happening. Now in retrospect, we can see it was happening. But think about it. It may have started with the endangered species that is the tight end position when you think about it. It may have been like the omen, like the bad omen, the precursor to it all going down. And yes, of course, Mac did. Yes, he did change the offense. Mac declared that Texas will become a power running game. But there was a lot of transition at the time. That's when Mac lost his way. We all know Mac lost his way. We all know that. All right. And once Mac lost his way, that also contributed to everything going off the rails. Because at that time, remember, he was gonna retire. I told this story last night when I was speaking to some guests. Some folks, and they had me come out and speak to some people, and they had me as a guest. And I told them in 2009 when I went to go visit Mac Brown and the team at the national title game, Mac Brown was as cocky as I'd ever seen him. He knew they were going to win that game. Like, he was pretty damn sure Texas was going to win that game. He was pretty sure like he thought Texas was going to win that game. And honestly, if Colt doesn't get hurt, I believe that's why he thought, oh, no, we have the formula. We got the game plan. Texas is going to win. That was a start of Nick Saban's dynastic run. And I think Mac believed that he had the recipe to win. And then, of course, Colt gets hurt. And I think a lot of things changed for Mac because he couldn't ride off into the sunset the way he wanted. And then that affected his legacy, and Mac wanted his legacy to be more controlled. He wanted to control more of the narrative about his legacy than that, instead of just kind of. So I think he came back to try to win another one. Thought it'd be easier than it was. I think we all thought it'd be easier than it was, and it wasn't. It wasn't easy. We took for granted having starting quarterbacks be Chris Sims to VY to then to Colt. That was a hell of a handoff. You did have a chance mock in between. That was a hell of a handoff. And then we took it for granted, and so did Mac. And then him changing the offense didn't help a young Garrett Gilbert, and so on and so on. We're not getting deep into that. I want to get into some other stuff. Let's get into the weeds. But I think we started with Chris Ogbonnaya, and then I went down the rabbit hole. All right, let's talk about this team, though. Let's talk about Sark and something I want Sark to do. Something I want Sark to practice as a coach. I want him to practice just in some ways, just, with specific concepts and specific strategies and schemes, tactics. I want him to practice being an extremist. He's a moderate when it comes to play calling, honestly. When you look at the way he calls plays and you look at the nuance of his rhythm as a play caller, he's actually kind of a moderate. The only thing he's really extreme about is the deep ball. I don't know if it's extreme as much as it is stubborn. Right? It's a stubborn. He's stubborn about the deep ball. All right. And with him being stubborn about the D ball, he's going to throw it no matter what the circumstance. And we've all seen it. And no matter what it does, it's meant to inflict psychological damage on the defense. When you don't complete them, sometimes it does a more self-harm, right? It inflicts a lot of damage on the offense. But when something is successful, when you can quantify something's success rate and what it's doing well, I would like to see Sark become an extremist. What I mean by that is last season, right, when Sark knew that his best two players, his best leaders on the team too, on offense, either in the team period, but definitely on offense, were Bijan and Rojo. And they were also going to be part of the identity of the offense. I think you should have put them on the field more. Now, I said that in 2021, and it should have happened more in 2021, but Sark didn't know the team. Sark didn't know the pieces that he had, and he didn't understand exactly, I don't know, how talented, and I don't think how elite of runners Bijan and Rojo were together. But by year two, he definitely understood that, and he talked about it a ton. And when you had those guys on the field together, and honestly, sometimes when he put Bijan Robinson out there too, because they would, rotate those guys in different combinations. Sometimes Bijan and Rojo, sometimes Rojo and Keelan, sometimes, Bijan and Keelan, they did it different ways. But when he ran 21 personnel, because having JT Sanders out there, Bijan, Rojo, basically essentially your best 11 at the time. This year, you're going to run a lot of 11. You don't have Bijan and Rojo, but just an example from last season. The explosive play rate, meaning the amount of times or the rate of times that Texas had at least a 15-plus yard pass play or a 10-yard run, over 23% of the time. They were extremely explosive out of their two-back sets because they had their two best players on the field. But he didn't run it enough. To me, it should have been, in terms of the usage of it, hell, you should have been running that more of a quarter of the time. I know that sounds crazy, but you should have adjusted and become an extremist about that particular concept last season. And Sark won't do that. He loves 11. He runs 11 personnel, which is one back, one tight end. That's last year was from 40-something, a little over 40%. 2021, it's around 50%. And he loves 12 personnel. He loves two tight ends on the field. Last year, he substituted a lot of two tight ends with a sixth offensive lineman. Either way, he's going to add that up. It's going to be close to 40%. And then he fills in the rest. All right. And last season, he filled in the rest with 21 personnel, two back sets, multi-back sets, around a little over 15%, over 16% of the time. And that's good. It should have been more. Should have been more. Because it was your explosive play rate out of those personnel packages was unbelievable. It was the highest of any personnel grouping that Sark utilized last season when he had two tailbacks on the field, tight end, and two wide receivers. And I don't think he used it enough. And the margin for error, hey, it's a game of inches. Hell, last season, if you look at targets to motion, another stat I track because I'm a bit of a nerd. If you can look at targets to motion, that is a throw to anyone who's in motion at the time of the snap or before the snap, right? Targets to motion, and you go look at in 2022, over 80% completion percentage. It's pretty damn good. you're at, you're hovering around 10 yards per attempt when you target players that are in motion or at the time in motion before the snap or at the time of the snap. Didn't do it enough though. I mean, you're hovering around 10% rate of utilizing that concept. So just like we talked about yesterday, right? What did we talk about yesterday with Joey McGuire? Joe Me the Money, the Texas Tech head coach. He went for it on fourth down 52 times, more than any team in college football. He committed to it. committed to it. He actually went for it more than any team since like 2009. Be an extremist about really successful concepts and schemes. Be an extremist about it. Don't be a moderate. Just, hey, if it works, okay, let's keep hitting them with it. Let's go over and over and over again until somebody finds a way to stop it. That's don't save it. And I think sometimes Sark's like, he likes variety because he believes he's kind of an artist. He's painting this masterpiece. He wants to do a lot of different things. No, that's why he think about last season, right? He had to get almost they had to frustrate him into just giving it to Bijan and Rojo. What was my motto? Put some Bijan on it with a side of Rojo. You had to frustrate him into that. It's like, all right, my game plan ain't working in the Iowa State game or the Baylor game. Let's just let Bijan and Rojo take it. But he thinks of himself as this, and he is, right, as a brilliant play designer, play caller, and he wants to go into his bag. He wants to show. And by the way, it does work. It helps you recruit. I mean, everybody wants to see an aesthetically pleasing offense. I said, honestly, listen to Longhorn fans talk about Sark's offense. First offense that Longhorn fans actually have been proud of and have bragged about and take pleasure in watching since Daryl K. Royal and Emory Ballard and back in the day running the wishbone, because they complained about Greg Davis's offense for years. The only reason Longhorn fans started liking the Greg Davis offense is when he put VY in the offense, and they were like, all right, yeah, we like the offense now. But they complained about Greg Davis's offenses for years, still do. Complained about Makovic's offenses, even though Makovic kind of brought the modern passing game. Complained about Tom Herman's offenses. Hell, don't get me started on Charlie Strong's offenses. So, Longhorn fans complain, but Sark's offense, Longhorn fans don't complain about the offense itself, not the actual construct of it. They may complain about Sark not being creative enough. They'd like to see more of it, actually. They'd see more of the creativity, the innovation, Sark in his bag. They don't see enough of that with Sark. But I want to see, like I said, when he finds take for instance, in 2021, his first season in 2021, when he ran empty formation, they were great out of it. With Casey or Hudson, they were really good at empty formation. In 2021, when they ran empty formation, they averaged 8.9 yards per play. And if you look at the explosive, and how about this? The sack rates went down. Your sack rates were lower out of empty formation. This is also the case in 2022 as well. Not 2022, but 2020 as well, I should say. And you go look at it, the actual explosive play rate was through the roof for your empty formation. You're at 23% explosive play rate out of empty in 2021. And Sark didn't run it enough. He ran it more than Tom Herman, but still less than 10%. You should have been jacking that thing up. Jack it up. And it worked great with Sam Mellinger because Sam Mellinger was a mobile quarterback, and empty speeds the clock up for the quarterback, speeds your internal clock up. You got to get the ball out. They know they do. And the defense is forced to expose themselves because they can't have any pre-snap disguise. You got to get to your damn job quickly when there's empty formation. You ain't got time to disguise because you get out of position. It's all about alignment assignment at that time. So it worked well for him in 2020 and as well in 2021. Not as well in 2022, but I'm just saying that it for year to year, it changes as to what scheme, concept, strategy, tactics going to be really successful. You as a coach got to figure that out. You're a problem solver. You figure out, oh, damn, we're really good at that. Remember in 2021, they were really good at the Wildcat. Remember how good they were at the Wildcat? They were great at the Wildcat. I got Wildcat numbers. They were unbelievable with that Wildcat. They were averaging easily over like 6 yards per rush with the Wildcat in 2021. And then 2022 didn't work as well. It didn't work as well as they would liked it, so they scrapped it. So it's just it changes. Remember Bam Bam Sam in 2018? Bam Bam Sam, baby. Nobody could stop Bam Bam Sam. He was all over the place. Anytime I got some stats from Bam Bam Sam that'll blow your mind. We'll do that on his birthday or something. Right? But it was nobody could stop it. He was converting every third and short. It was like bam, bam, Sam, baby, let's go. took him all the way to the Sugar Bowl and beat Georgia with Bam. Now even Georgia could beat Bam, Bam, Sam. And then in 2019, didn't work as well. And that team started to figure it out. They watched some film on it. Texas wasn't as potent because they lost some of their players that really were effective at executing that particular concept, whatever strategy, personnel grouping. So things change from year to year. I'm just saying whatever is going to work this year, as I've just identified like 3 different things that have worked throughout the years. That's in retrospect. In real time, Sark's got to figure it out. Now, I did predict for 3 years, play more 2-back sets, play more 2-back sets. I did predict for 3 years, play more empty formation, use more empty formation, and it was working. That doesn't guarantee that that's going to be what works next season. That's on Sark to figure that out. But he can't be a moderate about it. Once you figure it out, man, go ham on it. Go ham on that thing. Go ham, Sark. I need you to go ham on it. All right. We'll come back. I want to get into some, there's a Tom Brady birthday shout out that we got to get to. We could do that. And I got a perfect way to do that on the other side. So we'll do that early. Also, we'll talk some more Dallas Cowboys. We talked some of that yesterday. We got Cowboys discussion. People are counting Dak Prescott's interceptions in training camp. Is this allowed? Is that out of violation? You can count. How can you count interceptions in training camp, but not count the touchdowns in training camp? Nobody's got the touchdown numbers for Dak. All I keep hearing is, oh man, he ain't thrown 4 interceptions. Like, yeah, how many touchdowns has he thrown? And I know he's throwing a lot of touchdowns. Nobody's keeping up with that number. All right, so I'll talk about why Dak is getting shafted right now with the narrative, but we'll also get into some other NFL news, notes, and nuggets. You may see the NFL talking about changing their kickoff and their kickoff return. We'll get into that too coming up. So we got some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. But on the other side, shout out to the GOAT, Tom Brady. We'll do that in the only way the Rodcast can. We'll come back right here. Let's take a break. Let it breathe, Blake, in 3, 2, 1.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the best recruiting success stories in the history of the Texas program. Ultimately, a prospect that turned into an All-American and a 5-time NFL All-Pro. Earl Thomas was a mid-4-star prospect by rivals when he signed with the Longhorns in 2007, finishing as the nation's number 106th overall prospect, the 19th best prospect in Texas, and the number 12 athlete in the country, according to Rivals.com. While Thomas was obviously very well thought of, he actually ranked behind 3 other defensive backs in his own recruiting class with the Longhorns: Curtis Brown, Ben Wells, and Christian Scott, all ranked ahead of Thomas in the Rivals rankings. On the day that Thomas committed to the Longhorns, he was joined by 5 others: Keenan Robinson, Kyle Hicks, Michael Huey, Ben Wells, and Andre McGaskey. Of that group, Robinson played in the NFL, while he, Hicks, and Huey were all multi-year starters on teams that challenged for national championships. Meanwhile, Thomas was Thomas. That was some kind of weekend for Mac Brown in recruiting. When Thomas committed, he told Jason Sucamel of Orangebloods, quote, "I called Mac Brown today. I let them talk to my dad for a while. My dad wanted to talk to them before I committed. Then I went ahead and made my commitment." My favorite memory of Thomas's recruitment occurred in College Station for the 2006 state 7-on-7 tournament before Thomas's senior season. After watching him play in a group game on the first day of the event, an NFL coach that I knew walked up to me and told me that Thomas was the best player in the entire class. We didn't listen to him when we did the rankings, but we should have. Thomas was a member of the 2007 recruiting class that finished 5th in the nation in the Rivals.com rankings.
All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. I appreciate you guys hitting us up over there with the chats. Always remember you can hit us up, and if you got something you really want to interrupt the show with, hit us up on the super chat, and we appreciate that. Oh, all right. Somebody says, how much, I like this, Adam, how much to broadcast with the helmet on for 5 minutes? Oh, man. I told y'all my wife, she brought the helmet out. It ain't been out in a while. And Adam, she tried to clean off the scuff marks. And she was like, all this coloring, it's all discolored. She's like, I got to clean this off. It's going to look bad. And I was like, baby, those are battle marks. That's Oklahoma State paint. That's Texas Tech paint. You know what I mean? That's Baylor on that joint. You know, that's great. You can't clean that off. That's good that it's got a lot of marks on it. Nobody wants a clean helmet. Everyone's got to have something on it, some scuffs on it, something like that. So that's a great question. All right. You know what? Man, should it be a bidding? Should we just maybe we can get it going? Because I'm willing to do it. I hadn't put it on in years. I ain't gonna lie to you. I got to make sure it smells all right. Hold on. Let me smell it first to make sure. I think wifey clean the inside of this thing. Oh, yeah, it smells pretty good. No, it's not bad at all. It's not bad. And my head hadn't gotten any bigger. All right. Hell, let's test it first. Let's just test it real quick. Let's just test it out. Test it out real quick. Oh, yeah. There you go. Oh, man. Look at that. Can you hear me, though? Can I hear me? Oh, hear me all right? Yeah, we good. Oh, yeah, that's nice right there. Oh, yeah, I like that. All right. I could do it. I was worried about whether I was going to sweat too much, but 5 minutes, I could do it. All right. Let me think about that one. I like this idea, Adam. I like the way you're thinking. All right. So my man Blake says y'all can't hear me, so we can hear. Y'all can hear, and it's still cool enough. I won't sweat. All right. So we will get that going. Let me think on that. Adam. I'm gonna think on that, and I'm gonna get back with you next segment, and then we're gonna figure out what the dollar figure is for Rob B to do 5. And what should the segment be? I guess whoever wins, they can pick the segment. So if you end up winning, however we're gonna do this, Rod B doing a segment in the Texas helmet, you get to pick whatever the hell I talk about. And it can be anything. It can be whatever you want to be. Trust me, Rodcast, we could freestyle, we can talk pop culture, aliens, all that kind of stuff. We can get into it. That actually, it sounds like a lot of fun. We might do that a couple of times. Actually, that might be a one-time thing right there. We might do that a few times. All right, let's give a shout out. Thank you, Adam. That was fantastic. I like that idea. Keep them coming. Okay, so Tom Brady, he celebrating B-Day, 46th birthday. Shout out to the GOAT. And he's not coming back, y'all. I think he's done. I think it's official. I know some people were holding out hope that he might come back. I think it's a done deal. We're not going to see Tom Brady anymore. But of all the accomplishments, he's got a ton of them. 7-time Super Bowl champion, 10-time conference champion, 8-time MVP, 5 Super Bowl MVPs, 3 regular season MVPs, 6-time All-Pro. Hell, he's played so damn long. So most touchdowns, completions, yards, win. I mean, I don't think anybody's ever going to break all these records. And maybe they'll try to play as long, but how are they going to accomplish as much? It's just going to be impossible. So at this point, you're talking about the GOAT of GOATs. Got in terms of wins, NFL record wins, NFL record playoff wins with 45. He has also the current record for a quarterback and for playoff wins for a team. He's played on with the Patriots, of course. So man. Now Patrick Mahomes is probably the only one that's maybe on that type of track, but damn, that's a lot. You think Patrick Mahomes can get to win 7 Super Bowls? He's already got 2. I mean, the man's already got 2, so I ain't gonna put nothing past him. But yeah, we can get into that maybe at another point. But I was looking at a fact about Tom Brady that was just astounding. So Tom Brady threw more touchdown passes in his 40s than he did in his 20s. Yeah. Let that sink in. Tom Brady threw more touchdown passes in his 40s than he did in his 20s. And that got me to thinking about crazy stats. So basically, Tom Brady got me thinking about stats that are so unbelievable that they seem fake. They don't even seem true. Like they literally are stats that you cannot believe. He's like, no, that's stats. No, I can't believe that stat. I'll give you a couple of more, right? Jim Harbaugh has more rushing yards than Bo Jackson. That is an unbelievable stat. These are true. These are true. But But like I said, crazy. Reggie White. This is how good Reggie White was at one time. Reggie White had, when he was with the Eagles, he actually had more sacks than games played in his 10th season with the Eagles. Like that's time with the Eagles, he had more sacks than games played. He had 124 sacks in 120 games. Crazy. Yeah. I got a bunch of these. I'm not gonna get to all of them, but I just want to get to a couple of more. We can get to some Patrick Mahomes because he's got some crazy stats too. Here's one about Joe Thomas that's pretty wild. He had 10,363 consecutive plays without missing a snap, playing on the O-line. And some people may not think that's incredible, but that's freaking incredible to me. Man, the O-line, you smashing every play. That's wild. Larry Fitzgerald. Oh, we already started the super chat bidding. 9.99 for the helmet. Oh, yeah, that ain't gonna get it done, but I appreciate that. For $9.99, I'd like to do something. Yeah, I'll pull it closer there. For $9.99, I'll at least keep it close. Keep it close. Heck, I'll give you a little preview. There you go. A little preview. How about that? See? Not 5 minutes, a little preview though. Start the helmet bidding. We can get it done, man. I tell you, it feels the more I put it on, the more I like it. It's just been a while. The more I put it on, the more I like it. It's good, baby. Man, see? This used to terrorize wide receivers back in the day, man. Yeah, I don't know nothing about that. This is what wide receivers used to see. They be terrified at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if they were terrified, but still, does feel good to put it back on. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for your donations. We're gonna definitely figure out how to get the helmet on. I'll give y'all a number. I'll give y'all a number. I promise we'll get that done. All right. All right, I'll give you a couple more stats. Larry Fitzgerald, how about this one? Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles in his career than drop passes. More tackles than drop passes. He's a wide receiver. He's a wide receiver for you. For those who don't know who Larry Fitzgerald is. How about this one? This is a crazy one too. Barry Sanders, the great Barry Sanders. I think he's in GOAT status. Also has the all-time record in yards lost in the NFL, over 1,100 of those. Yeah. That's the thing. Here's one for Patrick Mahomes. That's a good one. He has 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins, of course, now in 5 years. He has not played a road playoff game yet. Ain't that crazy? And he's undefeated in the division. The man is 16-0 in the division. Can't nobody beat him in the damn division. They can't beat him. That's crazy. Unbelievable. Yeah. Kansas City also, man, these Patrick Mahomes stats are wild too. Here, I'll give you a Patrick Mahomes stat that's kind of crazy. Because I was looking at it and it's mind-blowing to see it. So Patrick Mahomes, if you go look at his passer rating, the Patrick Mahomes is career passer rating, playoff passer rating, and regular season passer rating. He has the highest career regular season passer rating at 105.7 in NFL history. His regular season passer rating is 105.7. That's the highest regular season passer rating in NFL history already. His playoff career passer rating is 107.4. So his playoff career passer rating is, by the way, an NFL record, the highest in NFL history, and it is higher than his regular season career passer rating, which is 105.7. Also a record. That's crazy. Yeah, freaky stats. So I know we're talking about Tom Brady. And if there's anybody, I guess that could come close to Brady, maybe in 10 years down the line, maybe it'd be Patrick Mahomes. Yeah. Yeah, I know. That's a good one, too. That he hasn't lost a game by more than one score. No, he's got a bunch of those. He's got a bunch of them. He's also the best quarterback in the NFL when playing from a deficit. Like, no quarterback in the NFL is as good as Patrick Mahomes when they're playing from a deficit. I won't spend too much time on this because I didn't mean to go off on a Patrick Mahomes rant, but hell, man, he's worth it. He really is. So if you go look at quarterbacks, and I'm talking about all-time greats in the playoffs, right? Quarterbacks in the playoffs who have been down by double digits, and their record when they've been down by double digits, nobody comes close to Patrick Mahomes. His record when down by double digits in the playoffs, he's 4-2. It's crazy. Went down double digits in the playoffs. I know this. I started keeping up this because I'm a Texans fan, and he did it versus the Texans. The Texans had like a 20-something point lead on him at one point. I think it was 24 points, if I'm not mistaken. No lead is safe for that dude. Tom Brady is the GOAT, no doubt. But Patrick Mahomes is, if anybody can be on the track to do it, it could be that dude. He's so good that no lead is safe. To me, that's his X-Man ability. Is that's what he can do. Nothing really, in my opinion, is as intimidating as Patrick Mahomes when he's down, actually. When he's down double digits, or he's down because you think you got him and you do not. You got no shot. Who saw it? He saw it this year in the playoffs. He's been down in the Super Bowl double digits. Didn't matter. Usually when you're down double digits in the playoffs, you're not supposed to win those games. You're not supposed to win them. Tom Brady's 5-8. He's 5-8 in such situations. That's Tom Brady's win percentage when he's down double digits in the playoffs. And that's damn good. Aaron Rodgers is 2-6. Brett Favre was 1-7. Peyton Manning was 2-7. People don't have good records when they're down double digits in the playoffs. You're probably on your way to getting blown out. Not Patrick Mahomes. He actually has a winning record in that situation. I can't find a quarterback that has a Hall of Fame elite quarterback that has a winning record in that situation. You're not supposed to. That dude's a special kind of freak. So there you go. Tom Brady, happy B-Day. Hey, here's my take on Tom Brady, though. Tom Brady, if everything works out the way it's supposed to be, and I don't know, maybe it might have went off track with him divorcing Giselle and all that kind of stuff. So, now Tom's dating some other supermodels. So Tom, do your thing, do you. But at one point with TB12, I do know that Tom Brady basically wanted TB12 to become like a true lifestyle brand, right? He had wifey designing the athleisure for TB12. He had he had cookbooks. I mean, go on the website, cookbooks, meal plans. He's got, he wants to start building TB12 clinics, all this type of stuff. No, I'm serious. It's a real thing. And I believe at one point, Tom Brady would like in the future, maybe I'm talking about 20, 30 years from now, when Tom Brady still is going to be fighting Father Time, giving Father Time the middle finger. He wants to be, he'll probably be known more if his plans go as, they're executed, all right, as he has conjured. I think he'd be known more for the TB12 brand in 30, 40 years than Tom Brady, the GOAT of football. Basically, like some young kids know Michael Jordan for the shoes and not for being the GOAT of basketball. Right? They all know him being the GOAT of basketball. Like, oh man, yeah, you mean dude the shoe? Yeah, I love Jordans. Been like, no, the Jordans, they came because of the greatness of Jordan, of MJ. But they know him for the shoes. They're like, oh yeah, the shoe brand. That was Jordan. And I think if he actually crafts the brand the right way, he'd like to be known for the TB12 brand in the future. Some version of some motivational kind of speaking element to it too, where it's a kind of life, coaching, that type of stuff, right? Yeah, he can provide kind of a life coach, because that's what his trainer was for him too, Guerrero. He was kind of a life coach for him in terms of not only what he eats, but how he treats his body, the whole mind, body, and soul thing. That's what TB12 is about. You should go study it. And I think that's what his vision is for TB12. I don't know if it's going to be that, but it's supposed to be a brand that can address all the different facets of your life. What you wear, what you eat, how you live, you need to be motivated, all that kind of stuff. He wants to be like the Tony Robbins / there's a Tony Robbins motivational speaking element to it. And also when you start thinking about health and fitness, Tom Brady, he knows what a big time industry that is. And with his brand and health and fitness, and everybody associates him with beating Father Time. Everybody, that's part of his brand. Part of Tom Brady's brand is he successfully gave Father Time the middle finger. How did I do that? TB12. Well, what is that, Tom? Well, the diet is disgusting, but no, I think that's part of the pitch, and that's part of the marketing, and it's a genius marketing idea. I don't know if he's still on that track as trying to, really build up that brand in that way. But that was Tom Brady's. I think that was his goal. Remember, at one time he tried to be the Jackie Moon of the NFL as well. Let's not forget that. He had a plan in place. That's why the Dolphins initially were penalized a draft pick, was because they were plotting behind the scenes with Tom Brady. The owner was with Tom Brady and Sean Payton. Remember, Sean Payton was a part of this too. Sean Payton, Tom Brady plotting behind the scenes so they can go to Miami. Tom Brady could be the quarterback, also own some equity in the team. And then at the same time, he could be quarterback and then Sean Payton be the coach. So he tried it. Oh, it was going to be – I actually was kind of rooting for it, honestly, because he was trying to get revenge on Belichick. And don't forget, one of the conspiracy theories is that Belichick, remember, he did facts. He sent what was a mistaken text to congratulate the wrong Brian. Remember? Because I started, like Brian Flores and Brian Dable and the NFL, the discrimination suit and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he sent it to the wrong guy. Yeah, sent that text to the wrong guy. And then the domino effect ended up being, Tom Brady cannot go to division rival Miami Dolphins and set up shop with Sean Payton as his head coach and get to whipping on the Patriots, which actually now you see he probably definitely would have been whipping on the Patriots. No. So that story, that was Tom Brady plotting behind the scenes. And honestly, he almost got it done. All right. I know there's some people talking trash on Dak. All right, we're going to address Dak on the other side, because the Dak haters. I really don't understand the Dak hatred. I don't. But I have a theory. I have a theory about the Dak haters. I do. I have a theory about the Dak haters. I do think, honestly, and we'll get into it, but I think it actually is something that I can go as far back as Romo and make this case too. It's not only a Dak thing. So I don't think it's, you know what I mean? I don't necessarily think it's exclusive to Dak. I think it's a Cowboys fan thing. And I think the Cowboys organization is part of this. I have data and facts to back it up. That the Cowboys organization, for years, they've been gaslighting Cowboys fans. So they've been gaslighting Cowboys fans. So Cowboys fans have kind of this distorted perception of not only their status, but also some of their players too. And I want to, and Dak and whoever the quarterback is, man, they got it the worst. So we'll address the interceptions, because I want to talk about that too. All I keep hearing is interceptions. Dak's throwing interceptions in training camp now, and he threw the most interceptions in the NFL last season. We'll address that. We'll talk about the Texas Coast offense, and I'll tell you why Dallas Cowboys fans, I know y'all freaking out. I'll tell you exactly why you don't like Dak. I'll tell you why you don't like Dak. I've broken it down. I've figured it out. I've psychoanalyzed Cowboys fans, and I'll use a Chris Rock bit to help me explain it. All right, any Chris Rock bit will help me explain it to you. If you're a Chris Rock fan, you gonna like it. And yep, I need to mention Viagra a couple of times because Viagra and Dak got something in common. And we'll talk about what that is, because it also relates to why Cowboys fans still can't believe in Dak. Y'all still can't believe in Dak. I don't know what it is. All right, so we'll get into that. All right, Cowboys fans, come up next. We'll address it. I know y'all want to talk. I see the chats keep rolling in, talking about Dak. We'll hit it. All right, we'll hit it. I'm a Dak fan, but I was also a Romo fan. I was a Romo sexual. A lot of y'all out there, Romo folks, I love me some Romo. I'm cool with it. All right. And some of y'all out there, some Dak heads, and y'all like Dak, and some of y'all don't. Y'all don't like Dak. All right. But we're going to get into it, and we'll talk Cowboys. On the other side, right now, we're going to let it breathe for a second. In 3, 2, 1.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the biggest UT football stars of the last decade. Bijan Robinson was a 5-star prospect by Rivals when he signed with the Longhorns, finishing as the nation's number 18 overall prospect, the second best prospect in the state of Arizona, and the number 1 running back in the country, according to Rivals.com. Upon retrospect, it's kind of amazing that former running backs coach Stan Drayton was able to land Robinson when you consider that Ohio State was perceived as a massive leader for much of his recruitment. In fact, on the day he committed, Rivals.com recruiting analyst Adam Gorney told Orangebloods, quote, even after the Atlanta 5-star challenge, it almost felt like Ohio State was the foregone winner, Gorney said that day. But as it got closer, I think the realization that he would basically be going across the country to play football kind of set in. He really liked Texas and USC a lot, had connections to both schools, liked the staffs, and how they would use him, and wound up finding a school closer to home that he was very happy with. It wasn't until Robinson visited Texas on an unofficial visit for the spring game in April that Texas began to make it surge. By the time June rolled around, a couple of months later, the Longhorns had emerged as a team to beat in his recruitment. Robinson was a part of a 2020 recruiting class that finished 14th in the nation that year in the Rivals.com rankings, and what turned out to be the final full recruiting class for Tom Herman. A few years later, and there's not a ton of meat on the bone with respects to the elite prospects from that year outside of Robinson. Jake Majors and Jaron Thompson remain as a few of the higher ranked players in that class, but it's actually 2 of the lower ranked prospects in the class, Jahdae Barron and Jalen Ford, that have made the biggest impact as the class begins to wrap up its contribution to the Texas football program.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about Cowboys. Let's talk about Dak Prescott. Okay, so there's a lot of talk. I've seen it on different shows about Dak Prescott throwing interceptions in training camp. I don't know how many he's thrown. I've heard different numbers. I'm not tracking it. My only counter to that would be, do you have the touchdown numbers too? I know he's throwing some touchdowns. Don't just give me the interception numbers. Give me the touchdown numbers too. You got to do that. And Cowboys fans who are anti-Dak, I get it. You got to look for both. All right. What are the touchdowns? Are you seeing some of that too? Because I've seen touchdowns on Twitter and on social media, and I've seen the interceptions too, but you got to give me both numbers. So let me give you a number to put the Dak interceptions into perspective before we start talking about this thing. And for those who don't know, Dak, I understand that last year led the NFL on, he missed games and still led the NFL in interceptions with 17 because he threw 2 more in the postseason. So I get it. But his first 6 years in the league, he had a 1.7 interception rate. That was 5th best all time, just ahead of Tom Brady in it through his first 6 years. This is not in his nature. This is not something that is part of Dak's character as a player. So I don't necessarily think he's going to repeat this, but for those who are not believers in Dak, they see this as a regression, not an outlier. I see this as an outlier. They see it as a regression. If he does have another season like this, yes, that's a regression. No question. I mean, that's I see it as more of an outlier, but you can go regression. You can call it what you want. It all depends on which side of the aisle you're on, right? I'm a defensive back. So when wide receivers run what they call a rub route, I call it a pick route. That's a pick route. Pick routes are illegal, right? That's that. But I guess you got a rub route. It's like, oh, I rubbed him. I didn't pick him. It was a rub. I just rubbed him. You know what I mean? It's like, well, it all depends on what side of that rub or that pick that you're on as to how you see it. And I think if you really like Dak, you say, hey, man, it's an outlier. That's not part of who Dak is as a player. If you don't like Dak, you say it's a regression, and it's part of Dak as a player. Now we're going to start to see him slide. It's just it's an omen. It's something it's a precursor for more bad stuff to come. But let me talk about. I'll get back to the Dak interceptions in a second because that's a schematic conversation. I want to talk about macro. So, let me talk about the macro really quick about Dak and why Cowboys fans are so, fanatical is that's not the right term. They are, man, it polarizing with what is a crazy term to throw out there too. But it's crazy that the Cowboys fans are so split on their quarterback, right? They're from the jump, either you love Dak or you didn't like Dak. And for Cowboys fans, I've seen more Dak haters lately than I have Dak sympathizers. This is the reason. Blame it on the Cowboys, and here's why. The Cowboys have drafted the fewest amount of quarterbacks in the NFL since 2000, last 20 whatever years. Drafted the fewest quarterbacks in the NFL. And that's tied with Indy, I believe, Indianapolis. They're tied with them for drafting fewest. And it makes sense with Indianapolis because they've had Andrew Luck and they had Peyton Manning. So they hit on their quarterbacks. For the Cowboys hadn't necessarily hit on quarterbacks. They just don't draft a lot of quarterbacks. That's just the nature of the organization. And they are arguably one of the luckiest teams, if not the luckiest team, when it comes to quarterback in the NFL, because they had Romo, who's an undrafted free agent, that ended up becoming their franchise quarterback. How often does an undrafted free agent become a franchise QB in the NFL? How often? Kurt Warner? That's it. That's probably it. That list is short, very short, right? That is a really, really short list. And it happened for the Cowboys. That's a miracle. All right? Romo, miracle. He is a miracle. Because undrafted free agents don't become franchise quarterbacks. It never happens. Happened with Romo. And for the Cowboys, I think as an organization, that they was kind of lucky on that. And that really, I think, shaped the way they approached quarterback from that point on. And they got lucky again. Dak Prescott, they got lucky on that. Now, they did draft a quarterback in the fourth round. Good for them. Remember, they wanted Connor Cook. They wanted Paxton Lynch. They wanted, one time they wanted Johnny Manziel. Different the conversation, but they went and drafted Dak Prescott in the fourth round. Initially, he's the third string quarterback. He's behind Kellen Moore. He's behind, Tony Romo initially, of course. And Tony Romo gets hurt. And Kellen Moore gets hurt. Then Dak Prescott becomes the guy. And so they never intended Dak Prescott to be the franchise quarterback. Like they never intended Romo to be the franchise quarterback. And I think that mentality has also infected or affected Cowboys fans, because Cowboys fans, they also don't look at Dak or Tony Romo as the franchise quarterback that was chosen, because they essentially weren't chosen to be franchise quarterbacks. They just ended up being the franchise quarterback over time. They earned it, but they weren't necessarily picked for that role. The circumstances ended up, determining, the fate of Romo and of Dak Prescott, and they took advantage of the situation. Good for them. And I think psychologically for the fans, they want the prince that was promised, right? Chris Rock has a great bit about marriage, about how why women are always. I'm not preaching this. This is Chris Rock's bit. Why women are bitter at the man that they're with now, and he said your woman is bitter with you, and she's upset with you, and she's frustrated with you, and angry with you, because you're not her first choice. You're not her first choice. And for Cowboys fans, I feel like that applies to Dak. That Dak wasn't the first choice for him for some reason, and they'll never really truly love Dak. They never really truly embraced Romo either, because Romo was never supposed to be the franchise quarterback. They were both, in a sense, a happy accident. They were Viagra. No, they didn't know Viagra was going to be a drug that changed the world and helped millions of men with erectile dysfunction. They thought they were getting a drug that would help men and women with angina, like a heart issue, a cardiological issue, a cardiovascular issue. And then they ended up finding out, hey, you know what? It also causes erections. This is great. It's a byproduct. It's a happy accident. Turns out, it works better for that than it does for our original purpose. And that's Dak. That's Romo. They're both happy accidents. And I think that's why for Cowboys fans, sometimes it's hard for Cowboys fans to accept him. And for Dak, also, in terms of selling Dak doesn't have a true X-Men ability that is measurable and tangible, right? And what I mean by X-Men ability, every quarterback in the NFL, you should be able to identify them by an X-Men ability, right? Something they do as well, if not better than everybody else. What does Dak do as well, if not better than everybody else? What's his X-Men ability as a quarterback that would set him apart and make him elite? It's always been identified as leadership, actually, by teammates. It's identified as leadership by coaches. It's identified as leadership, and I think that's his X-Men ability. That's what he does better than everybody else. Everybody talks about his leadership, but that's not sexy with fans. They want to see a big arm. They want to see a guy that can. And Dak doesn't run as much as he used to because of the injuries, and he shouldn't be running as much. He shouldn't run as much. So Cowboys fans, they don't like Dak as much as most fans adore or like their franchise quarterback. And yeah, they still, even to this day. I mean, we are at this point. He's the most tenured quarterback on his team in the NFC. And yet Cowboys fans still don't believe in Dak. And last year did not help. The 17 interceptions. I'll address them real quick. The 17 interceptions by Dak, and this is why Mike McCarthy took over the play calling, because he wants to make Dak a low-risk, high-reward player. Last year he was high risk and high reward. He was both. You don't want both. You want high risk. You want high reward, but low risk, right? And last year, Dak threw, 17 interceptions total. That's a lot of interceptions and way outside of his character. But I'll give you a couple of stats about his picks. So of his 17 interceptions, 11 of them, 11 of his 17 interceptions, the Cowboys needed 10 plus yards to gain. So we talk about a long situation, whether it's 1st and 10 or 2nd and 10, 3rd and 10, a long situation, 10 plus yards to gain to get a first down. And with eight of them, so half of the interceptions, they were 3rd and long, which is 7 plus yards to gain. That's usually what people's definition of 3rd and long is. Last year, the Cowboys, and this is what got them in trouble a ton. When you look at 3rd down, they were in 3rd and long, 7 plus yards to gain. 44% of the time. 44% of the time. That's a long time. That's a lot, man. That's a lot of time to be in 3rd and long. And they were still, one of the better teams at converting, but that made Dak's job a whole lot easier tougher. And Dak was throwing a lot of interceptions, a lot of risky throws as a result. And you want to make Dak's job easier. You want to work smarter, not harder. And I think that's what Mike McCarthy wants to do. He wants to try to do that. The way to do that is play action pass first and foremost. You got to throw a lot more play action passes. Dak's great. All of his 17 interceptions, only one of those came on a play action pass. 16 of his 17 interceptions came on straight dropbacks. So you want to have less straight dropbacks for Dak. That means more play action pass, more RPOs for Dak, or get him on the move. Get him outside the pocket, get him on the rollout, get him on bootlegs. Dak in a straight drop back situation. Not saying he can't do it, but that's probably the weakest part of his skill set as a player. You want to get him in a, like I said, play action situation, RPOs. He's really good in RPOs too. And he's really good in the quick game, getting the ball out of his hands real fast. So to me, that's what I would do. The Texas Coast offense, I don't know how it's going to look. I hypothesize you'll see a ton more play action pass in it. You're going to see I think you're going to see a ton more RPOs than you saw run pass options. And hopefully they get Dak on the move a little bit more. Listen, I'll say this about Dak, and we'll get back to some Texas football conversation because I can always relate Cowboys to the Longhorns. But if you go look at the 3-and-out percentage for the Cowboys, their 3-and-out percentage was around 34% last season, where they were. That is way too high for the Cowboys. That's in the same area. That's in the same realm with teams last year. Chicago was at 36%, Tampa Bay at 35%. Those are bad offenses. Cowboys are an elite offense. They're a top 5 offense. They should never be at 34% 3-and-out ratio or rate. The Lions were the fewest. They were at 25%. That's what they were. Kansas City was at 25%. Those are the two of the best offenses in the NFL. San Fran was at 26%. The Cowboys should not be a 3-and-out offense. They're way too explosive to be a 3-and-out offense. And I think last year, because they were conservative at times, predictable at times, I like Kellen Moore, but that's what Mike McCarthy wants to bring to the table, a Dak-friendly offense, get the big Dak energy going, all right? Get some of that big Dak energy and get Dak back to playing low-risk, high-reward football. You get Dak back to doing that, and the Cowboys hopefully can get past the divisional round. And that, to me, that's all it is about the Cowboys this year. If they don't get past the divisional round, I think Mike McCarthy is probably going to be on his way out. I think they'll probably let Dan Quinn take over. He's already there, and give him a shot. They're already becoming a defensive-oriented team. Think about the Cowboys have spent more money on offense in 2022, in 2021, except than any team except for like 2-3. They were in the top 3 in offensive spending in 2021, around top 5 in 2022. They were always toward the top of the offensive spending, and their defensive spending was probably, in the middle of the NFL. It was probably average, and you can tell now they're spending a lot more money, a lot more draft capital on defense. That's a Quinn Ewers thing. Dan Quinn thing. I have my Quins mixed up. That's a Dan Quinn thing. Thinking about Quinn Ewers. That's a Dan Quinn thing. All right. And Dan Quinn's having a lot of influence on exactly what the Cowboys are gonna become as the identity of that team, what it's gonna be. And if they're gonna be a defensive oriented team, that's why they said they want to run the ball more. You got to find some running backs to do that. It's a different discussion altogether. But they want to run the ball more because they want to control the game more, controlling the game so they can let their defense win the game. I think they're done trying to be led by their offense and let their offense win games. I think they want their defense to actually win games for them. And they know their defense is that good. Their defense could be the best defense in the NFL. It could be the best defense in the league next season. And if it's not, it's going to end up being top 5. I think it's got a chance to be number 1. I think the philosophy of it is really good. And now you've added pieces that were all at places that were all liabilities for you last season. That corner spot opposite Trevon Diggs and that interior defensive line, which was Mozzie Smith, your first-round pick. You're talking about a defensive player of the year, a former defensive player of the year at the corner, and you're talking about a first-round defensive tackle. So that Cowboys defense is loaded, man. The injuries worry me a little bit in training camp. They've had some injuries. Sam Williams, Donovan Wilson, Makiyama's dealing with an injury too. Trevon Diggs has had the toe. So they've had some injuries, but I think the Cowboys defense is going to be elite. It was elite last year. There's no reason to think it'll fall off. And their most elite quality is opportunistic. When they take the ball away, they take it away. Led the NFL in defensive takeaways the last 2 years. And they're going to do, I think they might do it again. And only the Steelers from the Steel Curtain days have been able to lead the NFL in takeaways in back-to-back years. Cowboys got a chance to do it in 3 straight years. And Micah, this is the year, I think if he's going to win Defensive Player of the Year, this might be the year that he does it. And if he does that, it'll be because, everybody's kind of riding that Micah wave because he's playing at a high level. So he gets double teamed consistently. Other guys get single blocking and other guys step up and make a lot of plays too. So I think the Cowboys defense is going to be legit. We'll see if Dak can, as he said, lower the interception numbers. He said he'll have fewer than 15. And I have no reason to believe that Dak's going to have another year where he is careless with the football. I'll just say that as a guy who watches a lot of the Cowboys. All right, so Cowboys fans, there you go. That's my Dak take for all you Cowboys fans out there. I know you wanted to get into Dak. There it is. All right, we'll get back to some Longhorn conversation because Quinn Ewers looks good. I heard Sark talking about how good Quinn looks. Quinn apparently looks sharp. He's really crisp in his reads. He's mentally, Sark said that he looks like he is processing things faster than he used to. The throws look crisp, and everything looks right now like it's on track for him to make the second-year leap. Even Sark has talked about the second-year leap for Quinn Ewers. And I agree with that. There usually is, and we can talk about this even in the NFL, a second-year leap for guys where the light goes off for them. They've been in the system. They're a little bit more comfortable. They know their teammates. They know the personnel. That should be happening for Quinn Ewers. And there's one, that's one trait I want to see from Quinn that I haven't seen yet. I know it's in him. And I've seen some flashes potentially of it. But there's one trait that all great quarterbacks, I think, have to have. And I think this year, in order for Texas to reach, the standard and exceed the expectation level that are really high that everybody has for them, or even meet it, they're going to need Quinn to be able to practice this trait. And it's something that I need to identify within Quinn. And we'll talk about that coming up next because I want to talk to some Texas football. We'll talk about the offense, but Quinn Ewers specifically, and we'll get into something that I think really all great quarterbacks have to have. So we'll do that coming up next. Let's take a break. Let it breathe in 3, 2, 1.
One of our very first Orangebloods recruiting flashbacks will focus on a player that went on to become one of the best running backs in the history of the sport. Jamal Charles was a high 4-star prospect by Rivals.com when he signed with the Longhorns in 2005, finishing number 57 overall in the Rivals 100 and number 4 overall in the state of Texas. Personally, I had Jamal Charles as a 5-star prospect on my Lone Star Recruiting Top 100 list, but I have to admit that I wasn't head over heels in love with him the first time I watched his junior film as a prospect. It's hard for me to admit this out loud, but I actually had questions about his speed and whether he was really as fast as his track exploits suggested he was. Ultimately, he was scoring touchdowns as a junior at Memorial by such wide margins that he really never had to open up his speed on the field as much as he just seemed to coast. It didn't take me long to figure out that questioning his speed was one of the dumbest things I've ever done while working in this industry, and that's probably saying something. The most dramatic part of his recruitment might have come on the day he decided to commit to the Longhorns, because when he picked up the phone to call running backs coach Mike Haywood, no one was there to take the call. Charles told Jason Sukamel of Orangebloods.com that he would call Mac Brown back the next day and make it official. And that's exactly what he did. The hit rate for the class was exceptional, as Charles was joined by the likes of Henry Melton, Roy Miller, Jermichael Finley, Roderick Muckleroy, Quan Cosby, Chris Hall, Charlie Tanner, and of course, Colt McCoy. When it's all said and done, and you look back at the last quarter century of Rivals.com ranking prospects, Jamal Charles is one of the greatest Longhorn prospects that ever lived.
All right, welcome back, folks. Let's talk some Texas football. And I want to talk about Quinn Ewers because I do think that this team is only going to go as far as Quinn Ewers can take them. Now, if something happens, I know a lot of people want to talk about Malik, but I'm talking about the starting quarterback. I should say they'll go as far as the starting quarterback will take them for you Malik Murphy fans out there. But for the sake of this argument, we're talking about Quinn Ewers and Quinn Ewers' development. And the reason the big leap is expected is because, I mean, this is a guy that's had a lot of just turmoil early on in his career as a quarterback. Was leaving high school early, then transferring to Texas. Then he had the injury, actually had some injuries in high school as well. Then the injury here. So for Quinn Ewers this year, and knocking on wood, so I want to talk about the injuries. But if he can, be healthy, the leap for him is going to be, can he be a quarterback that can get past the first read and get through progressions and still make plays, right? Because when the play breaks down, which happens, probably half the time, right? The play breaks down for different reasons, whether it be a missed assignment, someone misses a block, whether it be a wide receiver, got caught up, ran the wrong route. Well, he was well covered. You misdiagnosed the pre-snap read. Different things cause a breakdown. Offense has to run on precision, accuracy, timing. All those things have to work in unison, and all of it takes is, a couple of things to happen, and the play can break down, right? And when the play does indeed break down, it doesn't go as planned, all right? And for Sark, I think that's key, because even Sark himself mentally, he's better as a play caller. What do we say when he's on script? On script, and his offense is built that way. His offense is built for it to operate on time and on schedule, right? His offense is not, it doesn't have a fail safe built within it, baked into it for organized chaos. There are offensive coordinators like Brian Dable. He actually bakes in scrambling into plays with his quarterback, and Texas did it with VY in the national title game. Remember, that basically was the play. That's like, hey, if you ain't got it, boom, we gonna run it. Go ahead and take it. If there's some open grass, take it. The play is designed to clear things out for you anyway. So when it clears it out, take it. And Sark's offense doesn't work that way. It's an offense built around precision, and he doesn't like things operating off schedule. He doesn't necessarily operate that way either. He's not comfortable in chaos. A stat that I remember from Sark's last year at Alabama, when he had conceptually, that's his most ideal offense he's ever had. If Sark could build a perfect offense, it would probably be that offense there at Alabama. Maybe the last 2 years he was there, because he was loaded at wide receiver, and the offense never had to really get through the progressions because of the first reads were open and they were executing at an extremely high level. And I remember this stat from Draft Network that Mac Jones went to his second read less than 10% of the time. That he was first read quarterbacks. Boom, boom, boom. First reads. And you're talking about first read quarterbacks like that. That's what I think Sark's offense is built on. That, hey man, I have already designed a featured wide receiver for you. I've already designed the concept. I have schemed it open, and all you got to do is deliver the football. And when that happens, it's a beautiful thing. All right, when it operates that efficiently. It doesn't always operate that efficiently. And when it doesn't, right, you need a quarterback that can deal with the chaos. VY could deal with the chaos really well. All right. And there are certain quarterbacks that are agents of chaos. They're comfortable when the play breaks down and they got to scramble, or they got to decide to run, to pass, to extend the play to keep the play alive, all of that. And there are, in my opinion, I think, some quarterbacks that you almost, as a defense, you don't want them in that role. You'd rather them be in the pocket in a controlled environment, because once they get outside, they get to the point where they're unpredictable, and then their athleticism takes over. There's some guys you want to keep. I think V.Y. was probably like that too. But for Quinn, when the play breaks down, I do need him to show. That's when you need that intangible, that immeasurable quality, that quality. And, the famous Mac Brown always tells a great story about it, that the late Darryl K. Royal told him. It's a great story. It's an awesome story. It sounds like some joke somebody would tell at a bar, that he was at DKR Stadium, and it was him, it was Mac, Willie Nelson, George Strait, and Darryl K. Royal, and they were hanging out on the field. And a coach, and I'm assuming this was a coaching clinic or something was going on, coach comes up to Darryl K. Royal and says, "Coach Royal, I want to be like you. You're amazing. You're a legend. Please give me some advice. How can I be like you?" And then Coach Royal looked at it and said, "Hey, listen, if you have it, you'll make it. If you don't have it, you won't make it. And if you don't know what it is, then you ain't got a chance to make it." And the dude kind of looked at Coach. He didn't respond. He looked bewildered, stupefied, walked off. And Coach Royal looked at Coach Mack, looked at Willie Nelson. He looked at George Strait and said, "Hell, he ain't got it." And that's kind of it in a nutshell, right? It's it when you see it. Like, nobody knows exactly what it is. It's an indefinable quality that nobody can really quantify. But if you got it, you got it. And I think every quarterback got to have some of it. They're probably different levels of it. You may not be able to have the VY level of it or the Colt level of it, but you've got enough of it as a player. And I think part of that is your instinctive. As a matter of fact, the term that I use is a Bill Walsh term. So I want to give Bill Walsh credit. Bill Walsh was actually interviewed, and he was asked about what makes a great quarterback and what do you look for in a quarterback. And his response was amazing as always. And because Jim Harbaugh interviewed him, or at least sat down with him, I should say. This was a while ago when he was alive. And he says that when he asked Bill Walsh, what you look for in a quarterback, Bill Walsh said athletic instincts. Athletic instincts. He said, and when he was asked about what are athletic instincts, and this was another interview because they were asking him about that interview, he said, an instinctive, spontaneous, natural response to situations that develop in games. Basically like quarterback spidey sense. He says, Bill Walsh said some of the quarterback's greatness was that his spontaneous instincts would break loose 10 to 15% of the time, often making a phenomenal difference in the result of the game. 10 to 15% of the time. And Texas had 7 one-score games. You're going to need that instinctive, spontaneous response that Bill Walsh was talking about. And I want to see if Quinn has some of that when the play breaks down. Ideally, the play wouldn't break down a lot this season because you got a veteran O-line that you're returning all of your O-linemen. You got high upside backups behind them on the O-line. You're deep at wide receiver. You got a really good tight end. Running backs a little unproven, but you still got talent there. It's just unproven. For the most part, the operating efficiency of the offense, the efficiency level should be really high. But there are going to be plays that break down where you need the quarterback to figure out how to either extend the play, go make a play, or make the right decision. And for Quinn last year, he didn't do that. And I can understand why. He just didn't have the reps. He was basically a freshman last year. So he didn't have the reps to be able to be calm, cool, and collected in those situations to allow his instinctive, spontaneous response, his athletic instincts to take over. And you're going to need that this year. So that's kind of what I'm looking for. I don't know if you'll see that in camp, but that's what you need to see from Quinn, especially, when in the Big 12, where there are going to be a few occasions where he's going to go up against a defense that may confuse him, may bewilder him, because you see a lot of 3 high looks, things of that nature, and he's got to get to the second play, essentially, once the initial play breaks down. And once the play resets, And whether that be the scramble drill, or whether that be him getting outside the pocket, hell, maybe the best play is throwing it away, but there's a play to be made a lot of the times. Maybe the best play at that time is to throw it away. But that's what I want to see from Quinn Ewers. And I do think this year with Quinn, you're not going to, he's going to be operating, like I said, first read. And I think you're going to be scheming open a lot of really cool concepts. And I don't think you'll have to have him freestyling and improvising. You don't have to have that. But it's going to be, you won a national title off the second reaction play. That was VY's second reaction play, which was essentially baked into the play call and the play design as a fail-safe. And Sark doesn't like that. Sark don't, and Quinn's not built that way. And I'm not saying we need to see Quinn scrambling all over the place. No, Sark would prefer you actually run to extend the play or scramble to throw, I should say. That's what he wants, a scramble to throw quarterback. But like I said, the 2 years ago, Casey Thompson was not a scramble to throw quarterback. He was just a scramble quarterback and scrambled. Hudson Card last year decided he learned that lesson that Casey Thompson taught him and said, you know what? I'm going to be decisive. I'm scrambling. When the play's gone, I'm scrambling. And Hudson Card did a great job last year scrambling. How many times he break off a long run, even with his ankle hurt, sometimes on one leg, boom, still broke off a really long run. Because he was like, he figured out I'm going to be decisive about when the play breaks down, I'm gone. But Sark, I don't know if Sark encourages that. I think that was just Hudson Card as a veteran quarterback. Just like Casey Thompson in 2021 was a veteran quarterback. And when the play broke down, Casey's like, I'm gone. And you know who taught him that? Sam Ehlinger. No quarterback in college football scrambled more than Sam Ehlinger. No quarterback. While Sam Ehlinger was starting, no quarterback scrambled more than him. He scrambled all the time, whether that was him distrusting his O-line or whether that was Bam Bam Sam, his just inner football player saying, I'm getting the hell out of Dodge. He scrambled a ton. And Sark he said, we don't major in quarterback run game. And I don't even think he minors in it. I don't think he likes it at all. So we're not talking about that. Even though Quinn did score a rushing touchdown last year in the Baylor game, I believe. But that's what we want from Quinn. Super chat, shout out to Craig. We appreciate you. Thank you, Craig. What have you seen or heard since last season that tells you Quinn has turned into that dude? I like the Quinn Wick references. The John Wick references was nice when they asked him about, how does it feel with the target on you because you're Texas and you're picked to win the Big 12. And Quinn went, it kind of feels like, John Wick. We are the hunted, but we can turn around and start being the hunter. I love that. And even Sark brought it up a couple of days ago too. That, hey, Texas right now, John Wick is one of the themes they're running with. But just if you're talking about Quinn's skill set and what he struggled with last season, the big issue for Quinn last season, in my opinion, well, he had a couple of things, was probably his footwork. He got real lazy with the footwork. And I think because he's got a big arm, right? You got a big arm. It's easy to get lazy with your footwork because I got the big arm. I got the big golden arm. And the golden arm is still there. It's still go. We've seen it. It's legit. He's got one of the best natural arm talents we've seen in a long, long time. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is not even the golden arm can save you if your footwork is bad and your mental processing is slow, right? And I think, and this is not his fault. This is not a knock on Quinn. I'm not hating on Quinn at all. What I mean by the mental process, he hadn't seen a lot of that stuff. Just reps. Remember, he left high school early, went to Ohio State, but didn't play at Ohio State. Was practicing, but didn't play. And came to Texas. He's ready to start in a new scheme, by the way. So the scheme was new for him too. That's part of why the process is slow, because he's thinking, and when you're thinking as you're playing, oh man, it makes you feel slow. You look so, feel like you're playing in mud because you're thinking. You're thinking, like, oh, okay, oh yeah, oh it's yeah. You want reaction, you want muscle memory. Boom, boom. Instinctive, athletic response, right? That Bill Walsh just mentioned. That's what you want. And last year, that was slow because of reps, number one, in a new system, but also he hadn't seen a lot of those defenses, right? It's all about the reps of defenses you've seen. You've seen enough, match quarters, or you've seen enough 3 high, 3 down defenses. Have you seen enough of teams rotating safeties, consistently pre-snap and post-snap? He hadn't seen a lot of that just because he hadn't had the reps since high school, and high school is just a very different level than what he's seen at Texas. So I think, and even Sark said today, that's a great thing to bring up. I brought it up. He said that he seemed like he was processing quicker. I don't think he used that term, but he talked about the mental decisions and him getting the ball out quicker, being more decisive with the football. I think that's his familiarity with the system. He knows it now. He doesn't have to study it, doesn't have to think about it. It's second nature to him. And I think on top of that, hopefully the footwork is also something that he has become compulsive, obsessive about. As a quarterback, you have to. As a football player, you have to. Your footwork is everything. As a DB, I remember your eyes go where your feet go. If a DB's eyes are in the wrong place, feet probably was in the wrong place too. Right? And I think for Quinn, footwork and the mental processing. That's as a quarterback, that's it. And I think more than the processing is probably just reps. So he gets comfortable with it. And then he's got to figure out the deep ball. Sark is too obsessed with it to let it go. You got to connect on that deep ball. It's at this point, Sark has already told us, and I appreciate Sark being honest. Sark said, "No, I'm gonna throw the deep ball." He's bullish about it, and I always said he's like a crackhead. He's like Pookie from New Jack City. I need that deep ball. He's like Tyrone Biggums. Give me that deep ball, baby. He chases it though. Usually a deep ball, and I actually agree with his philosophy that he throws it early in games. Because he throws it early because he wants to plant the seed of fear in the defense. And he wants them to operate from a position of fear. And always thinking about the deep ball. Like, oh man, the deep ball. They're gonna beat me with that deep ball. And if you keep thinking about the deep ball as a defender, I can tell you, you back up just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, so I'm gonna be a little late on that corner. I'm gonna be a little late on that stop route. I'll be a little late on that slant route. I'll be a little late on that comeback because I'll be thinking about the deep ball. And I can tell as a DB, that's every defense's greatest fear, giving up the deep ball, giving up an easy score, right? Giving up something easy. You want to make them work for it. And the only thing that will give me dog cuss going back to the sideline from the field will be giving up the deep ball. I can give up, hey, Robbie gave up a first down on 3rd and 8. Robbie gave up an out on 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 9, whatever it may be. That's not going to get me dog cuss. My teammates are not going to be looking at me crazy on the sideline if I do that. If I give up that 50, 60-yard bomb, man, I come to the sideline. Casey Hampton wants to have a conversation with me. Corey Redden wants to talk to me about it. What happened, man? What happened? Derek Jones, hey, what happened, man? What happened on the ball? Everybody wants to know what happened. What happened, man? What you was doing out there, man? Okay, listen. And then on top of that, I got to talk to Coach Keenan about it. He want to know what happened too. That's the only time everybody coming up to you, what happened? Chris says, Major, hey, what happened on that deep ball, Robbie? What happened on that deep ball, man? So that you don't want to give it up. And that's why he throws it. He throws it early. Because even if it doesn't hit, I at least get that seed planted of fear. They afraid of us. And I actually agree with that. I've said for years, that does work. And he's right about that philosophy. Here's the problem with that. The problem with it is, if you continue to throw it once and you don't connect on it, it's like a 3-point shooting team that can shoot themselves out of a game. You can just keep throwing bombs and bomb yourself right out the game because you're getting behind the chains over and over again. All right. And those are wasted downs. Not totally wasted because you are planting the seed of fear. So you have that. But in terms of not being able to connect on it, that's a waste. And you're setting yourself up for failure. So you're doing more damage. You're more in self-inflicted damage than you're doing to the opponent. And that's what happened last year, actually last 2 years with Sark. So he got to figure out that deep ball. Because Sark is too obsessed with it. And for me, and this is another thing too. Sark throws a deep ball early, and I understand why he does that. I understand the philosophy behind it. I think he should start with the quick game quick game, right? Start with the small stuff. Get your quarterback in a rhythm. Get him in a groove, right? Start with the quick game, 5-yard hitch, slant, quick outs. Get your guys the ball on the move. Even the screen passes would work. Do that early on and then work your way to the deep ball. Sark likes to start with the deep ball. He likes to just start with it. No foreplay. He just going at it. And I think sometimes, and then, like I said, I get why he's doing it, but I think it'd be better for him to, he likes to do it in reverse and start with the deep ball and work his way backwards to the intermediate in the quick game. Man, I would just start with the quick game. Let your quarterback get in the groove. Let him get acclimated, let him get confident, let him get in the rhythm, and then boom. And then the defense will get tired of giving up the quick game. And they will start, and the beauty of the quick game is you start creeping up. I'm gonna creep up a little bit. I'm gonna jump this slant. And then you can hit them with the deep ball. And I think for Texas, they can do a lot of that. They can do a lot of that. So I think for Sark, that's where he gets caught up in. I know why he does it. I would switch it up just a little bit and just flip the script on it. But Sark's a big game hunter, so he wants big game. All right, he wants big game, dog. He don't go hunting for no quail and doves. He's trying to get the big game. He's going out on the African plains. I was say he's a big game hunter, and he gets upset and he gets frustrated by having to dabble his way down the field and dink and dunk his way down the field. He thinks it's an insult to him and his offensive prowess, I believe. That's why he forces that deep ball every time. So I think they'll figure it out. But last year, Texas deep ball completion percentage, 27%. That's not good enough. That's one of the worst in the Big 12. All right. Oh, my man, Catch. There you go. I appreciate that. Of the quarterbacks that you played with, is there a player that comes to mind when you talk about the mental processing component? That's a good question about players. Honestly, I think quarterbacks get better with the mental processing over time. It depends on the system you're into. Some systems are a little bit easier to process because you're not putting a lot on the plate of the quarterback. They're putting a lot. Sark admits he puts a lot on the plate of the quarterback. And you start looking at, the Sark system, the way it's set up. It's quarterback friendly, but it's still a lot of responsibility on the QB because he does run a West Coast pro style system. The Texas says here, Major was awesome at processing. I mean, he was a coach on the field. He really was one of those guys. He was a coach on the field. So Major will probably be in that conversation as one of the guys. Cause the thing about Major was, Major took it upon himself at times to get Texas in the right play, even if he believes somebody called the wrong play. So Major, so Major had that kind of attitude on the field. Major's one of them dudes. All right. And Major was a deal with the consequences later kind of guy. He's instead of asking for permission, I'll ask for forgiveness. That was Major. But hey, if the play works, you ain't got to ask for forgiveness. You can just talk about it later. But yeah, no, that's good stuff. I appreciate that. All right. Appreciate all the communications on the chat. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into Bijan Robinson. We'll talk about Bijan a little bit and how Bijan not only can be the savior for the running back market. Somebody can reset the running back market. It might be Bijan, but I got some stats that will really reflect on what Bijan, hell, I guess, and Rojo meant to the running game last year. So we can kind of examine how Bijan's absence will affect the Texas running game and what we can expect to see from Texas running game. I'll make some prognostications about Bijan Robinson, and we'll break that down on the other side. All right, so we'll do that. We're gonna let it breathe first. Take a break. 3, 2, 1.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on one of the most infamous recruitments of the last decade, a recruitment that ended with what has forever been remembered as Malikmas. Malik Jefferson was a 5-star prospect by Rivals when he signed with the Longhorns, finishing as the nation's number 28 overall prospect, the second best prospect in Texas, and the number 1 outside linebacker in the country, according to Rivals.com. While Jefferson is sometimes remembered for never quite emerging as a superstar for the Longhorns, look at who was ranked ahead of him in these 2015 in-state rankings and just below him. While Kyler Murray should have been the number 1 prospect in retrospect, Jefferson was easily the best of the top kids in the Rivals rankings that year. What most people remember about the Jefferson recruitment is that it was a close victory over Texas A&M and seemed to launch the Charlie Strong era into the stratosphere. For most of the recruiting process, Jefferson was leaning heavily to Texas A&M, but when the Aggies went through a defensive coordinator search following the 2014 season, Jefferson and A&M coach Kevin Sumlin had a bit of a disconnect, as Sumlin wasn't very open with his plans for a hire, which Jefferson felt was critical information to any decision that he was going to make. That disconnect opened the door for Strong to step in. When Jefferson made his announcement on December 19th, 6 days from Christmas, Strong was able to completely swing the recruitment into UT's direction.
Jefferson chooses the University of Texas at Austin.
Jefferson was part of a 2015 recruiting class that finished 12th in the nation in the final Rivals.com rankings in what turned out to be Charlie Strong's first full recruiting class as coach of the Longhorns.
All right, welcome back, folks, to the Rodcast. Appreciate everybody on the chat, and we will get back to the number, the dollar figure that it takes for to convince me to put on my Texas football helmet and do a segment. I'll get you. I got a dollar figure in mind. I think I got a dollar figure in mind. I don't think of what it would take for me to do a segment, and then what we can, and maybe we can get up to that figure, and we get up to that figure. And then we can name the segment that I'll do in the helmet. We can do that. All right, so we'll get to that coming up, and we'll have some super chat fun coming up later on. I want to talk about Bijan, though, right? So Bijan's, he's got 3 or 4 highlight reel plays. If y'all, I'm sure Longhorn fans have already seen them. Everybody nationally going crazy. All right, they going crazy over the videos because Bijan's going against cornerbacks, and he's doing them dirty in one-on-ones, doing linebackers dirty in one-on-ones. He had a slant and go that was pretty nasty. He had a choice route that was pretty nasty that he got a linebacker on. I believe it was just a skinny post that he got the cornerback on. These are all one-on-one reps. And by the way, let's just say this: one-on-one reps are just damn unfair. Anybody who's ever been to football practice knows one-on-ones. Come on, man. First of all, let me tell you how one-on-ones are set up. First of all, it's just one receiver out there and one cornerback, would say it's me or whatever out there. And there's no D-line, there's no O-line, there's no linebackers, sometimes they actually do put a running back there so the quarterback can do some fakes, but usually no running back, there's no safety, nobody else. It's just a quarterback, wide receiver, and a DB. And ain't no clock on it. They usually don't, if they blow a whistle, it's rare. About 8 seconds in, they might blow a whistle, or if the wide receiver give up because he's getting jammed up so bad, but it's very rare. They go 5, even go time that Bijan route. Go time it. It's about 5.5 seconds. I'm thinking to myself, it's a nice catch, but you ain't got that long. You ain't got that long in real football. So they do set you up for failure in one-on-ones. But that's the test, though. The test is if you can hold up in one-on-ones in that environment where you are truly disadvantaged, then you're a beast. If you can win more than you lose in one-on-ones as a DB, as a corner, you got some. You got some of that dog in you. And that's kind of what it's about. All right. So anyway, defense is at disadvantage the whole damn time. You live at a disadvantage when you're on defense. Get used to it, damn it. Life ain't fair. Let's talk about Bijan, though, because Bijan, he's in a perfect place to win offensive rookie of the year. I would be shocked. I'd be flabbergasted. And I don't use that word a lot as a black man. I'd be flabbergasted if he doesn't win rookie of the year. I tell you, it would shock me, because not only does he have the skill and the talent, that's why he's a running back drafted in the top 10. And we one of the biggest topics in sports right now has been the depression and the devaluation of the running back position in the running back market. And yet this guy still got drafted in the top 10. It's because everybody understood. Yeah, I don't draft running backs in the top 10, but there are exceptions to every rule. All right. I told this to my wife. Me and my wife just celebrated our 2nd year anniversary because I waited till 40 years old to get married because I was actually pretty stubborn about it. On our first date, actually, with my wife, I told her, and that was, 12, 13 years ago or something like that. I told her, I don't believe in marriage. I was that guy. That was like me. That was like my smooth. That was my way of setting the mood, and already kind of, boom, stating my case. Like, hey man, if you want to get married right away, I ain't the guy. And she stuck around, and we ended up getting married. So I guess she wins in the end. My point is this, and I told her this. I said, actually, I'm still not a big fan of marriage. I don't necessarily believe in marriage. I believe in you. You are the exception to my rule. So you'll always be the exception to my rule. That was my line to her. It's a good line, ain't it? My point is, Bijan is that. All right. I don't believe in drafting running backs in the top 10, but Bijan is the exception to that rule. I'll break that rule for Bijan. But a lot of teams probably would not. But let's talk about why Bijan is going to win. I think he's going to win Rookie of the Year and why he's in the perfect place. First of all, nobody runs the ball more than Atlanta. Nobody in the NFL runs the ball more than Atlanta. They had if you look on early down run rate, 51% early down run rate, which was higher than any team in the NFL. How about this? They ran the ball 48% of the time when they played from behind. They were at a deficit and they were still running the rock. Yeah, they run the rock, man. And not only do they run the rock and they're committed to it, and they're good at it because Tyler Algier was a late round pick, and that guy ended up being he's a 5th round pick, I believe, ended up being a 1,000-yard back for him. They have Cordarrelle Patterson they use in the backfield. The one thing I like about the Atlanta offense, though, is that behind the Shanahan offense in San Fran, no offense is built around, who is also, shout out, lifetime Longhorn, no offense is built around the positionless football principles like Atlanta. So it's the perfect landing spot for Bijan. Other than San Fran, it's the perfect landing spot for Bijan because they practice the principles of positionless football. You got Kyle Freaky Pitts, who can play tight end and wide receiver and play him in the slide. You got Cordarrelle Patterson, who can play running back, play wide receiver. You move him around in the slide. You got Bijan now, who can play running back, but you can put him outside a wide receiver and in the slide, move him around. So you got all these movable chess pieces that you can move around the chessboard. And if you can have enough of these guys on the field, and you can force the defense to violate the rules of their defense, you almost can violate the structural integrity of the defense in that way, because you have guys moving all around, and the rules about defense and responsibility are really specific. And if you start looking at it, they're pretty hardcore about when someone's in the backfield, you're defended by this person. When someone's in the slot, they're defended by this defender and this slot defender. So if you break those rules, in which positionless football does, just violates and break those rules, man, you really can totally kind of really hurt the structural integrity overall of the defense. And I think that's what Atlanta's trying to do. Shano and San Fran does it better than anybody. So that's why Bijan's in the right place. His resume is going to look spectacular because he's going to be all over the field. They've already moved him to wide receiver and running back, and they moved him, they've had him flexed out different places. He's at a nice spot. Yeah, some of you said they don't like the quarterback, Desmond Ridder. They keep saying he's a great leader. I agree. That might not be the answer, but they run the ball more than anybody else. The quarterback isn't as relevant there. They have, they based on their system, they run the ball so much, almost like Shano's system, positionless football, but they run the ball a ton. They have decreased, the margin for error when it comes to that position in the offense. And but it's my thing too. We'll talk about Bijan real quick because I think he is the savior, right, for potentially the running back position. If anybody wants to reset the running back market, he's probably, him and Jahmyr Gibbs can be in it too, but he was drafted higher than Jahmyr Gibbs, and we'll see if he can have stats that are just as impressive because I like that Detroit offense too that Jahmyr Gibbs went to. But if anybody's going to reset the running back market, it might be Bijan. You got a team that wants to run the rock in Atlanta. They drafted you really high. We know he's a first-class human being, so they're going to love him in the community, and they're going to love what he does. Not that matters in the running back market, and they're going to love what he does to represent them as an ambassador, and he's going to be, I think he's going to be extraordinary on the field. I think he's going to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. And if he does that, and he's already the best running back in the league, say by year 2, he's already considered the best running back in the league by his second year. He needs to do what Zeke did and skip the line. Unfortunately, that would probably be the best thing for him to skip the line. Like he needs to try to take that Zeke blueprint and skip the line. Remember, Zeke did it. Got paid before Dak, before a lot of people, and everybody was mad at the Cowboys for paying Zeke. But Zeke was smart because Zeke saw the running back market depression. He saw it being foreshadowed and said, "Nah, I got to get my money now because ain't no running back about to get no money pretty soon. I'm going to get mine right now." And he got it. That was smart. Now looking back, that was brilliant by him to go get that money. Because now you look at it, running backs can't do that. Remember, way back in the day, Le'Veon Bell played hardball where he sat out a year because he didn't want to play on a franchise tag as a running back, and he missed out on a year, but actually got his money from the Jets, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and got his money. And I think he averaged like 3.2 yards per carry. So he got his money, but he wasn't the same player. Running backs it's been hard for them. It's hard out there for a running back, man. It really is. And I understand why. It's just supply and demand. It's just simple. Tyler Algiers is the prime example with the Falcons. It's really for them to draft a running back that high. They had 1,000-yard back. Tyler Algiers had 1,174 total yards. Fifth round pick. Isaiah Pacheco, which is Super Bowl champs, he 1,222 total yards. He was 7th round pick. I mean, the fact that you can get these guys, hell, you go look at Dameon Pierce for the Texans. He was a good player. 1,100 total yards, 4th round pick. And you go look at the teams that have been in Super Bowls. They have, they've had running backs at discounted values. Like the average running back salary now is at $1.8 million. It's actually below kickers. Now that shouldn't be happening. Do you need a running back to, a high price running back to win the Super Bowl? No, but you have them devalue to this extent, I admit, is an insult. As an insult. Since 2013, no Super Bowl winning team has paid its leading rusher more than $2.5 million in salary. It's wild. And because of that, the NFL basically believes that you're old at 27. Think about all the running backs and what's happening to them. It all happens at 27. Everything goes downhill at 27 years old. Dalvin Cook, 27 right now, having a hard time trying to find a team. I know he's figuring out who he wants to play for. Saquon Barkley, 27 now. Had to take the 1-year deal, even though he didn't want to sign the franchise tag, worked out a 1-year deal. You go look at when the Cowboys cut Zeke, he was 27 years old. When Tampa Bay released Leonard Fournette, he was 27 years old. Austin Eckler is now 28. He wants a new contract. You go look at, it goes on and on. It's when you reach that age, hell, Tony Pollard is 26. I don't think the Cowboys are going to offer him a long-term deal. They're just going to have him on the franchise tag. Jonathan Taylor right now, I believe, he's 25, and I think he sees on the horizon, damn, I got 2 more years basically before I'm considered old. When a woman wants to have like a pregnancy at like 35, which is still young, some doctors refer to it as a geriatric pregnancy. Like you geriatric, she's 35 years old. Really? That's how running backs feel at 27. They feel like they geriatric. The way that Leonardo DiCaprio looks at 27-year-old women, that's how the NFL looks at 27-year-old running backs. It's like, we can't. No, you disgust me. Leonardo don't mess with him after a certain age, man. It's like, hey, no, 26 and under. I know. I don't want to get deep into it, but you get my point. At 27 years old, these guys are considered geriatric. And it goes back to that old study. That was a study done years ago in the NFL, and they still keep up with it. And the study basically summarizes that running backs peak. If you go look at it, I'll give you that since 2001. So this is a 20-something-year-old stat they've been keeping up with, and it's still relevant. Running backs with a minimum of like 75 rushes in the season. So that's all you got to have is a minimum of 75 rushes per season. If you meet that, you go that all the running backs who qualified for that, which a lot of running backs, they peak at age 27. Their production drops by 15% by the time they turn 28, 25% by the time they turn 29, and 40% by the time they turn 30. They have the shortest career span of all positions in the NFL and higher rates of injury than any position in the NFL. And owners have decided we're not paying. We're not paying. And it is sad. It honestly, it does remind me. I was trying to think about this too. Like what in our society like running backs is necessary to our way of life. It is something that is essential to our quality of life and to our society as a whole, and yet is grossly underpaid. And has always been grossly underpaid. Everybody knows they're grossly underpaid like running backs, and yet we've just accepted it and decided, man, we can't do nothing about it. Yes, you're important, but we can't get you more money. Your wage and your salary will never respect how important you are. It's like teachers, like nurses, like people that are vital, crucial. Like, man, these people are really important. They are responsible for the most valuable thing in our society, which is the future, our kids. And yet, I was an education major. And I can tell you right now, once I saw what we were paying teachers, I decided, okay, I can't be a teacher. I can't be a teacher. And it's a noble profession because ain't no teachers doing it for the money. They doing it because they love it. I can tell you that right now. Yeah, thank you, Texas. Oh, it's teachers. And that's what I thought about. I was like, man, it's teachers, nurses. Teachers have been complaining about their wages and compensation for a long time. And yeah, for some reason, we still can't fix it. Still can't fix it. Here's a stat for you. Teacher stat. Adjusted inflation. Teachers' average weekly pay has increased by only $29 between 1996 and 2021. Yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Running backs feel like that. Running backs feel like that. They feel like they've been shortchanged. But when you look at it, since 1980, 45 running backs drafted in the top 10, only 3 have won a Super Bowl with the team that drafted them. Marcus Allen, Jamal Lewis, Reggie Bush. The last rushing champion, leading rusher to win a Super Bowl. And I was shocked by it. I was like, man, that's a good question. Who's the last one to do it? You just go look at it, and you got to go all the way back. I believe if you go all the way back, I think it's the last one for that actually did it. You got to go all the way back to like the 90s. I think Marshall Faulk may have been the last. No, Marshall Faulk was the last Hall of Fame running back to win Super Bowl. Sean Alexander was the last running back who led the league in rushing, was a rushing champion, and won a Super Bowl. Marshall Faulk was the last Hall of Fame running back to win a Super Bowl. That's it. Yeah. And I believe if the running back Marshawn Lynch, who's not in the Hall of Fame, but if he ends up getting into the Hall of Fame, he would be then you'd put him in there too. The last Hall of Fame running back to win a Super Bowl. But right now, Marshawn Lynch ain't in there. I don't know if he's going to get into the Hall of Fame. But right now, Marshall Faulk in 1999, last Hall of Fame running back to win a Super Bowl. So the stats, the numbers don't lie, man. Like, why would you draft a running back really high? Why would you pay him a lot of money? Because you don't need him to necessarily win a Super Bowl. So, and Bijan can change this conversation, this narrative. That's the whole point of bringing this up. Bijan's got a chance to change this because Bijan is a generational talent when it comes to the running back position. So he's got a chance to shift the narrative just a little bit. So we'll see if Bijan can do it. But, man, right now, I'm really excited because, like I said, if I put money on it, I don't bet a lot, but I would put some good money on Bijan to win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Real quick, Bijan stats before we move on, because we'll get into next segment. I want to talk about – actually, we'll get into what it takes for me to put the helmet on. We'll get to the super chat number. But here's some numbers real quick as to how good Bijan and Rojo were at turning a negative play into a positive play. And this goes to and reflects on why Texas run game looked so subpar and underwhelming in the bowl game once they lost Bijan and Rojo. Over the last 4 years, you go look at running backs with the highest forced missed tackle rate per attempt. Bijan is number 2 and Rojo is number 5. So they're both top 5 over the last 4 years in running backs who have the highest forced missed tackle rate per attempt, meaning they break a lot of tackles, calling it forced missed tackles. Rojo, 57% of his rushes versus an 8-man box, it means a loaded box, resulted in a first down or a touchdown. That was the most in the running back class. That was the most in the 2023 class. 57% of his rushes versus an 8-man box resulted first down or a touchdown. Here's another stat for you. The percentage, if you go look at the percentage of designed rushes for Texas with a blown blocking assignment last season, Texas was second in the Big 12 with the most design rushes with a basically missed block, a blown blocking assignment. Yet they still could run the ball effectively. And a lot is because a negative play for any other average to above average running back would probably have resulted in the team being behind the chains, but not with Rojo and Bijan. Texas was second in the country in yards after contact as a team, 3.6 yards after contact per carry. And they also led the country in broken tackle rate, 27%. They broke a lot of tackles. So you had generational talents at running back in terms of being able to break tackles. Bijan averaged 5.8 yards per rush versus stacked boxes, at 3.3 yards per rush versus a stuff rate, which is being hit behind the line of scrimmage. So even when you were hit behind the line of scrimmage, these guys still made positive gains. They still made big plays out of it. That is what Texas missed in the bowl game. That is what they're going to miss next season in the run game. And Sark bringing in Paul Chryst, I think, is a big part of adding juice to the running game. And Sark himself has got to be creative about how you utilize and weaponize your running backs. Because they're all, with Bijan and Rojo, you can call any play, and they could execute it, perfectly. They're 2 high-level NFL running backs. There wasn't a bad play call with Bijan and Rojo in the backfield. With these other guys, I'm not saying that they're bad running backs at all. I don't know if they're as well-rounded as Bijan and Rojo. Like when you were in the bowl game with Keelan and Jonathan Brooks. And if you don't have guys that are well-rounded, then every run play and concept is not ideal for their skill set. So you might have to tailor the run game specifically for that player's skill set and what they do really well. And how does that match with what the offensive line does really well? And those are all things to consider. I think that's why he's bringing in Paul Chryst to help him with that. Yeah. If you look at yards per carry on runs that were not perfectly blocked, Bijan still averaged over 5 yards per carry, and Rojo averaged nearly 5 yards per carry. On runs with a blown assignment or a missed block, still getting positive, not just positive gains, getting you damn near half of the yards to gain for a first down. That's what you're going to miss in the run game. Now, Jonathan Brooks has got some of that too. Jonathan Brooks breaks a lot of tackles. He's special too. He's got some of that ability to get small and get skinny for running backs when he's going through a hole or he's about to meet contact. He's got a really special ability to get small at the right time, get skinny at the right time. So he does break a lot of tackles. He's elusive. I don't know if he's Bijan elusive or as well-rounded of a back as Rojo is. Like, I don't know if he's that. So that will be missed because those guys were exceptional at turning a bad negative play into a positive play. And in the bowl game, what did you average? Less than 3 yards per carry? Because those negative plays end up being negative plays. And with Bijan and Rojo, those negative plays, turn them into positive plays, stay ahead of the chains. Well, you end up being behind the chains a lot. And if you want the running game to be consistent, you have to find a way to you can't replicate what you did with those guys, but you got to find a way to be consistent, and you got to find a way to keep your offense on schedule. Can't be off schedule by getting behind the chains and then becoming predictable in passing situations. So that's going to be big for him, just because we all miss Bijan and Rojo, but you saw in that bowl game, Sark was a little lazy with the creativity for the run game. I mean, I think he just assumed I can call the same plays I did with Bijan and Rojo with Keelan and Jonathan Brooks, and that wasn't. I think that was a dang coaching mistake. I don't think that was a wise decision by Sark, and I think now he knows that. That's why you bring it in Paul Chryst, and maybe now you'll add some more elements to the run game. And one of the elements you can add to the running game, in my opinion, I think you're going to see it. And you don't ever want to take off some of your elite skill talent. But if the running game is not working, mark my words, they're going to start using that 6-0 line package they used last year. We'll dive deeper into it, but they like that package. Kyle Flood loves that 6-0 line package. He's talked about it at clinics. He loves it. It's his little pet project. And he's got so many good linemen there. You're deep. Brought back all 5 starters on the line, and you got a ton of guys behind. He might start breaking out that 6-0 line package to play some bully ball. Beauty of it is, and this is why Sark likes it too, they love to take deep shots out of that 6-0 line package. And they basically, out of the 6-0 line package, the only thing they really take are play action deep shots out of it when they run it. They'll run out every deep shot they take, and maybe 90% of the deep shots they took out of the 6-0 line package were play action pass, which makes sense, right? You're in a heavy run package. Teams are going to assume you're going to run it, fake it, chunk it deep downfield. Problem with that is they didn't connect on enough of those. So you get extra pass protection because you got extra O-linemen in there. So you might get extra time for the route to develop, but got to be able to execute that. So I think you'll see more of that. If their running game ain't working, there'll be one of the ways they try to juice it. Hopefully, they don't need to juice it. Hopefully, Paul Chryst and him bringing in schemes is creative enough. And the O-line just maturing. And that's one thing, too, that couldn't make up for losing Bijan and Rojo and their extraordinary elite ability to turn nothing into something. It's just the O-line becomes a bunch of just grown men. You know what I mean? They start mauling people. Like circa 2005 Texas, just mauling opponents. If they start doing that, then the Bijan and Rojo won't be missed as much. All right. We come back. I'll give you the number that it takes for Robbie to put on the helmet and do a segment in the helmet. We'll discuss this number the way it needs to be. We'll do that on the other side. Also, I want to talk some more NFL news, notes, and nuggets. But Texas football, I want to talk about the defense. I want to talk about the DBs a little bit. I'm a DB. I got to talk about the DBs. I'll tell you the one technique I need to see improve from the defensive backs. And all y'all probably remember this because y'all were watching it too. All right, I got the numbers to back it up. I'm a DB. We'll talk about it. That defense was really good last year, but this one concept, this one technique really, it just really upset me to watch it consistently be a problem for Texas last season. So we'll discuss that. I'll break that down for you. We'll discuss that and what it takes for Robbie to put on my helmet. I think right there. Boom, there. The helmet. All right, right here. We'll take a break. Let it breathe for a second. This is the Rodcast. 3, 2, 1.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on the answer to a long overdue trivia question. Who was the last 5-star defensive tackle signed by the Texas Longhorns? The answer? Brenham defensive tackle Malcolm Brown out of the 2012 recruiting class. Brown finished as the nation's number 26 overall prospect, the fourth best player in the state of Texas, and the number 5 defensive tackle in the country, according to Rivals.com. In a year when the Longhorns signed 4 of the top 7 prospects in Texas, Jonathan Gray, Kendall Sanders, Caleb Jones, and Brown, only Brown emerged as a true success, as injuries and off-field incidents left scars on the entire 2012 recruiting class for the Longhorns. Early in Brown's recruitment, going into his junior season, Texas A&M was a big leader. In fact, he told Orangebloods that, quote, "It's close to home and I would like to go there. It's in the Big 12. There's some opportunities for me to go there and do some stuff on the defensive line." A year later, Brown was a Texas commitment, along with teammate Tim Cole, who committed on the same day in what turned out to be a massive head-to-head win over the Aggies. Brown told Orangebloods.com on the day he committed, "Basically, I want to be a Longhorn and I want to get a good education." Brown didn't earn his 5th star until his strong performances in the Under Armour All-America game after his senior season, which forced Rivals' hands in the rankings process. Brown was a member of the 2012 recruiting class that finished 2nd in the nation in the Rivals.com rankings, but was one of the biggest recruiting disasters in school history. Of the 28 players signed in the class, only Brown, Hassan Ridgeway, Duke Thomas, and Marcus Johnson played on Sundays. Most of the guys in that class never came close to the kind of success that Brown enjoyed throughout his career.
All right. Welcome back, guys. We appreciate everybody sticking with us on the Rodcast. Always fun. Always goes by fast, too. Appreciate all of you guys and your participation. All right. Let's address the helmet first, because I love that when you guys brought up that we should we should have a figure that whatever figure dollar amount I come up with, and if we can reach that dollar amount, then I would do an entire segment on the Rodcast with the helmet on, with the Texas football helmet on, which, by the way, it does smell good. It's been cleaned out. We didn't wipe it down, so it still got all the battle scars on. It still got all the different, blemishes, and it still got all the different, marks and the different paint that's on there, and it's chipped a little bit. I'm a little proud of that. All right. My wife tried to say, "Oh, I want to wipe that down. I need to get all those scuffs off." And I was like, "No, baby, those scuffs, that's what battle marks, man. That's how they know that Rob was putting in work." All right. So here's the figure. If we can reach $100 in super chat dollar, and I'll answer questions, whatever, but if we can get up to $100, I'll put on the helmet and I'll do a segment with the helmet on. If we don't get it all up today, then we got to start it over the bar. But if we do it, then I'll put the helmet on and I'll do a whole segment, whatever the hell segment y'all want to do. That's what we're going to do. All right. That's what I'll do. It ain't that actually that hot either. Let me see this again. Let's see if I can do this. All right. All right. I think I can do it. You guys think y'all can still hear me? There we go. So that's the preview. All right. Let's work together. Oh, man. We go to $100. I'll do it. Well, I don't know where we at now. Blake, I'm going to ask you to keep up with it for me. We get there. I'm already sweating, though, too. Actually, I take it back. I can't do it without sweating, but I'll do a whole segment in there with the helmet on. Man, I'm going to need a sweat rag for it, too, because I'm already broken out. I'm already sweating a little bit because of it. Glistening. All right. See, we got, thank you. There you go. See, Blake's already putting money out there because he wants to get it started. Yeah, I'm already kind of out of breath on it. Yeah, maybe it ain't going to be as easy as I thought. I thought it was going to be easy, and now I'm like, yeah, actually, maybe it's not as easy. I don't know. I mean, turn the AC down up in this joint, and then I got to do it. All right. So if we get there, we'll get it done. Shout out to my man Blake for the contributions. I think we got a contribution earlier too, originally for it, so we can add that up to it. All right, let's hit the Texas defense a little bit. I'll tell you what technique I think they need to work on the Texas defense, and I've been keeping up with this because it was something that reared its ugly head early for Texas. Oh, Shannon Oh man, we might be doing a helmet segment before I knew it. Shannon with the 40. Oh, we basically got 50 on it. Oh, we up to 65. This is damn. This next segment might be in the helmet then. Oh, thank you, Shannon. God bless you. God bless you, Shannon. Okay. All right. I might have to take a break and turn the air down before I do it. I didn't think we'd get this far this quickly, but I appreciate you guys. All right. You know what? All right. Let's keep the party going. I'm down. If y'all keep the party going, y'all keep, contributing, y'all get up to $100. I'm a man of my word. All right. I will do the rest of that segment or whatever that segment is. And Shannon, if you got something you want to talk about in that segment, throw it out there. All right. There you go. All right. Let's talk Texas defense real quick. So Texas last season wanted to play a lot more man coverage, and they did. Matter of fact, that was Sark's. That was one of his plans and one of his adjustments in the offseason last offseason, I should say, when Sark said in order for them to fix the defensive philosophy, they wanted to be more aggressive. He said they weren't as aggressive in 2021. He said they were playing on their heels a lot and they wanted to be more aggressive. Part of that mentality of being more aggressive was playing more man-to-man defense. And remember, coming from Alabama, his time with Nick Saban preaches man-to-man coverage. He says it's the greatest coverage that you can play in football. But everybody doesn't have the athletes to play man-to-man. Not everybody can play man-to-man. Like that's hard to do. It's probably the toughest type of defense to play. You got to be an athlete to play it. Got to have great technique. You also have to, read body language really well. You have to be one of those defensive backs that trust your instincts. So you're not afraid to trust your instincts when you do see cues or keys. You got to be able to read them. So being a man coverage defender is not as easy as it looks out there, but it definitely the most effective coverage, especially versus RPO offenses and that kind of stuff. So Sark wanted to go more man coverage, and they did. They went a little bit more man coverage last season, but they also went to like more pattern match quarters. They called it match quarters, basically cover 4. And then they end up, the coverage deteriorates into a man coverage from a zone once the wide receivers declare where they're running their routes and declare their route combinations. So that's just insider nerd football stuff. But with Sark playing, or at least Sark declaring, they're going to play more man, and they're going to play that match quarters. One of the best ways to try to exploit Texas using those concepts was to use inside cuts, whether it be slants, posts, a skinny post, what they call a burst route, which is basically like a hesa slant, like you hesitate, but you still run to the slant, or it's almost like a double move. But they call it a burst, or at least Lincoln Riley calls it a burst route. As a matter of fact, like 3 different teams use that burst concept to score against Texas. That was the most, if you look at it, you guys remember all these plays. Remember Quentin Johnston wide open for his touchdown against Texas? That was a burst concept. K-State, when Kurt Warner's son scores a touchdown against Texas, that was a burst concept. But so an inside cut, but a hesitation slant. That was the burst concept. And Iowa State ran a version of it in the red zone, and they scored on it too. So it was one of those things where you can score on Texas using that concept because it would confuse their match quarters coverage. It would confuse the reads of the defensive backs. They should be better at that this year. But one thing, the Achilles heel of that defensive backfield last year was inside cuts. I'll give you some numbers. Astounding. When teams ran I'm talking about slant routes, just slant routes. That's it. Slant, 5 yards, boom, and in, slant. They completed 66% of their passes, and they had a first down touchdown rate of 43%. They got a first down or a touchdown 43% of the time they threw a slant route. Yeah, exactly. And post routes was around the same way. Post routes, the completion percentage on post routes was actually lower because it's a deeper throw, so a lower percentage throw. But first down touchdown rate around over 40%. And if you look at glance routes, which are usually a tag of an RPO, some people would call it a skinny post, the glance route. Teams completed 75% of their glance routes. First down, touchdown rate of over 70%. That was the part of the Achilles heel for Texas. They got to get inside leverage. They need to get inside. They need to stay inside. Inside leverage, inside leverage. You're going to play man coverage, you got to get inside leverage. Now, the pattern match quarters they play, it depends on the formation. You can get inside leverage if you're on the backside of a trips or a 3-by-1, or if it's a really tight bunch set and you're on the opposite side of that bunch set, something like that. So that last year they weren't bad at a lot of stuff. This is actually, I'm being nitpicky. The defense was good last year, but you could, if you wanted to, man, you could get them inside cuts on Texas over and over again. I don't know why teams didn't do it more. I'm with you, Nash. They were terrible versus short passes. You could pick Texas apart just running inside cuts, and a lot of those run from bunch formations. And we'll get deeper in the weeds on this too, because they have what they call an angle route. An angle route is when basically out of the backfield, a running back comes out of the backfield and runs, what essentially is a it's not a double move, but you end up running a corner and then you run back to the slant. So you start from the backfield with running toward the corner, and then boom, you cut it back toward a slant route. And that's usually called an angle route. Some people have a different name for it, I'm sure. Man, teams killed Texas on that. I mean, they killed them. Teams were really successful in that concept. But to me, it's the same concept, right? It's an inside cut. Inside cuts. That's what I think ultimately what you came to realize is that if it's an inside cut, Texas is vulnerable to it. And the crazy thing about it is you had one of the best coverage linebackers in the country in Jalen Ford. Jalen Ford was one of the best coverage linebackers in the country, made plays on the ball over and over again in coverage. And you still were vulnerable. And you had DeMarvio and Overshown, who's also really good. Oh, thank you, Audrey. Like that. All right, super chat. Hey, Blake, let me know what number we at. I haven't been counting. I know Shannon, she threw down on there. And Shannon laid down the gauntlet. So she's trying to see where I be in that helmet. ASAP. All right. So keep up with it. And thank you very much, Audrey. We appreciate it. I did say if we get up to $100 on the super chat that I would do a segment in the helmet. Going to do a segment in the helmet. Yeah, I don't even know what segment I'm going to do. We're going to do a segment in the helmet. All right. So appreciate you guys on the super chat. Okay. But getting back to the inside cuts, and this, you can get to it a lot of ways, right? Think about this. And you guys probably remember this too. The team, it was a person, I'm sure, a coordinator, that exposed Texas with the inside cuts, I think first, where I saw it and went, man, that's going to be a problem. It was probably Iowa State. I saw it before that. But Iowa State was they were egregious and extreme in the way they attacked Texas with those inside cuts. If you just look at in-breaking routes for Iowa State, they had at least, I counted 12 that they targeted in-breaking routes. It's a lot. And then after that, Oklahoma State copied the blueprint. Oklahoma State at one point, that's all they ran. They start running inside cuts, in-breaking routes over and over. Because remember, Spencer Sanders couldn't even throw the damn ball deep. He couldn't even complete it deep. He couldn't even throw outside the numbers because of his shoulder injury. Couldn't complete it deep. And they just kept throwing high percentage throws. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. I agree. Nash said opponents averaged 6.3 yards per attempt versus Texas, but were number 86 in the country in passing yards allowed. Yeah, because to me, I think a lot of that is for Texas. And think about it, could have been worse because if you look at it for Texas, there were some plays that weren't made that probably could have been made against Texas. And the Xavier Hutchinson play stands out to me too, that he dropped. And that was one of those that actually it was a coverage bust. They just the guys read the coverage wrong. They switched to receivers, and when they didn't need to switch receivers. But anyway, that's what they got to fix. I'm sure the coaches are already on it, guys. They own it. They own it. All right. Oh, Craig. Craig. Craig's got us up. Did he do it, Blake? You gotta let me know if he did it. I think we might be there. Oh man, I gotta get ready for a helmet segment. Boom, we're there. Okay, doing a segment in the helmet. I guess coming up next, we're gonna do a helmet segment. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. I didn't know it was gonna happen that fast. I was assuming there was gonna be a short segment at the end of the show. All right, how long was supposed to be the segment? Was it just one segment? One segment? Thank you, Brooks. I appreciate that. It's done. All right. So I guess we're going to talk Texas football with the Texas football helmet on. That's what we're going to do. Yeah, it's over there. My bad. We're talking Texas football with the Texas football helmet on. That's what we're going to do to come back. Yeah. But I agree with you, Nash. If the pass defense takes a step, which I think they are, you guys know I love me some. Can I give you one more stat before we get out of here? And then we'll come back and we'll discuss some Texas offense. And I'll talk about Sark. We'll talk about JT Sanders. I want to get into that a little bit too. And we can get into Quinn Ewers' development. So we'll continue this Texas football conversation. But Jahdae Barron stat. Because I'm starting to have a Jahdae Barron man crush. I'm telling you, man, the more I watch him, he's one of those guys, the more you watch on the film, the more you just love his skill set. So he had 11 and a half tackles for loss this season, which, I mean, for any defensive back, that is a crazy number, right? That's 11 and a half tackles for loss. Hell, for any player, that's a defensive back, especially for a DB, that's a really high number. So I actually went and looked at when the last time Texas had a defensive back had 11 and a half tackles for loss. And I went through, I actually found that Michael Huff Daddy never got 11 and a half, but he did have double-digit tackles for loss 2 years of the 4 decades for a DB. Yeah. And I like my man Nash's comments that Aaron Williams is a nice comp for Jahdae Barron because he is versatile. Gary Patterson said he could play safety. Gary Patterson, I saw an article with Gary Patterson remarked that, hey, man, he's kind of a safety, even at the nickel position. And we saw him play the outside corner. We knew he could play the nickel. But Huff Daddy was a beast. He did it twice. I mean, he got double-digit tackles for loss at safety and at nickel because he played different positions. But the last time a Texas defensive back at DBU had at least 11 and a half tackles for loss, you got to go back to 1975. I believe it's Ricky Churchman. It's the last one. See? That was a name I pulled out of my, you know what? I should have had my helmet on for that one. But yeah, it was Ricky Churchman. So that's how far back you got to go. You're talking about a long time ago, man. That's a long, long time ago. And I think for Jahdae Barron, the reason he gets those tackles for loss like that, he has great instincts. I had great instincts too. I did. I did not trust my instincts. There's a difference. You can have great instincts, but I didn't trust my instincts. So I would see the formation and I would see the personnel package that would give me all the clues I needed. All right, I'm going to go deep in the weeds here before we get into our helmet segment. Dre Bly, who is now the defensive back coach, I believe, for the Detroit Lions, if I'm not mistaken. I played with Dre Bly. And every now and then he started breaking down some ball, and he made me look at the game differently and basically look at the game as a football investigator. And you're just trying to decipher clues that you get pre-snap. They always talk about quarterbacks with a pre-snap read. Everybody gets a pre-snap read if you're not on the ball or on the line of scrimmage. You get clues, down, distance, the personnel grouping they have, the formation, how they've been exploiting you all game, what have your film sessions told you about their tendencies, the patterns, what they like to do, their habits in this formation, this down, and this distance. And once you gather all those clues and gather all the information, you better do it quick. You got about 10 seconds, 15 seconds to do it. Then you will narrow down the ways that offense is going to attack you, because your film study will say, well, on second and medium, from this formation with twins to the boundary, they love the double slant. And especially when they have these two players on this side, it's been a double slant 80% of the time. You know what? I'm jumping it. Some guys have that attitude where they don't play with fear. I used to operate from if I was a coach today, I would tell a player, do not operate from a place of fear. Like you need to trust your instincts, believe your instincts, play with discipline and good fundamentals and technique, but don't play with fear. I play with fear, and I'd see that it was going to be a double slant, but I just play the upfield shoulder and make a play on it. That's why Rod B is I think I'm fourth all time in PBUs, passes broken up. That, and I had bad hands, as y'all guys know. I mean, honestly, there should be two types of PBUs is my argument. If you're going to have passes broken up, there should be two types. There should be the passes broken up where you're celebrating, like, yeah, man, you're celebrating. You're like, that was a badass play I just made. I just, almost intercepted, but I knocked it down. That's a PBU. That's a celebratory PBU. Then there's PBUs like I had some of those where I should have caught it. There was nobody there but me. I made a great break on the ball, had two hands on it, and I just dropped it. And all I'm doing is shaking my hands and putting my head in my hands. And I'm just, everybody's looking around me like, oh, man, it's okay. And everybody feels sorry for you. And the crowd goes, oh, instead of, yeah. That's a different kind of PBU. And I had about a third of my PBUs might be that. I could be up there with my man Nasty Nathan Vasher with the interceptions if I had caught more of them. But anyway, I digress. My point being, Jahdae Barron, he believes it. He believes his instincts. He trusts his film study, and he goes. Now, next season, they going to hit him with a double move. They're going to hit him with a slant and go, hitch and go. It's going to happen. He's just aggressive. Why wouldn't you do it? You're a bad coach if you don't. But if he plays with good discipline, which he does, he'll be in a good position to defend those routes. But I love the way he plays. He plays with such aggression. And like I said, he trusts himself so much. And I can see it when I watch the film. I just see him trusting himself. I see it, boom, I'm going. And there's no hesitation. There's no fear. All right, I got a little fear about doing an entire segment in this helmet, but we're going to get it done. And we're talking Texas football in the Texas football helmet. Thanks to all you guys hitting us up on the Super Sat. So thank you for all you guys and all your contributions to the cause. We come back. We talking Texas football in the helmet. We're going to see how long I can get it done. Last segment of the show. We'll see if I can do it without passing out. Right here. We'll come right back. We'll let it breathe for a second. This is the Rodcast. Taking a break. Let it breathe. 3, 2, 1.
This Orangebloods recruiting flashback focuses on the player generally considered to be the greatest Longhorn football player of all time. Vince Young was a 5-star prospect by rivals when he signed with the Longhorns in 2002, finishing as the #1 overall player in the nation. 20 plus years later, the two things that stand out the most about Young's recruitment was how much ground the Longhorns made up in a blink of an eye. Weeks before his senior season began in 2001, his mother reported that Texas was out. Quote, "We ruled out Texas as Vincent has decided that he probably won't stay in the state of Texas to play in college," Miss Young said. In just a matter of months following that statement by his mom, Vince Young was pretty much wrapped up to go to Texas. The other thing that stands out about Young's recruitment was just how big he was in the city of Houston. I went to a playoff game with Madison against Hightower in the Astrodome, and opposing fans were jumping up in the stands over the excitement that Young was creating. I wrote for Orangebloods.com at the time, quote, "At that point, the Astrodome crowd started to go crazy. People in the Hightower section were high-fiving each other, laughing, and screaming in amazement," end quote. It was unlike anything I've ever seen before or since. On the day he committed to the Longhorns in January, Vince said, quote, "There's a lot of love down there at Texas, and that's what I was looking for before I visited. They made my mom smile, and that's all I needed to see. I committed to them this afternoon." Young was the bell cow of a 2002 recruiting class that was ranked first in the nation and is regarded as one of the best in the history of the school. That class signed 6 5-star prospects, which also included Justin Blaylock and Roderick Wright. Ultimately, Young's class was the foundation of the 2005 national championship team.
All right, guys, here we go. I'm ready. Hopefully, I don't pass out in this thing. Oh, yeah. It does feel good to put on, though. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm going to strap it up, too. Y'all deserve the full show here. Oh, man. Oh yeah. Oh, I hope this thing's not rusted and I can get them off. A little bit of rust. Hey, man, it's still this though. I gotta tell you, it does feel good to put it on, man. I ain't gonna lie. It feels good to put it on. Here's the thing about it. You think about this, guys. Like, once you're done playing football, that's why they always say there's no crying in baseball. Hey, man, there's a lot of crying in football. Because once you get done with the game, you don't get to put stuff like this on no more. I ain't put this helmet on in forever. Man. And you know what? Thank y'all. I got to start doing it more often. I'm just randomly putting my helmet on. Maybe go out, walk the dogs, kick it a little bit for football season. Keep my mind right. All right. I said a segment. We're going to do an actual segment with the helmet on. We're not just going to BS. All right. Y'all deserve it. So we're going to do a segment. Okay. First of all, let me do a correction. I said Ricky Churchman in 1975 is 1978. I apologize. I checked my notes. So if you want to know, 1978, Ricky Churchman, 11 and a half tackles for loss. So I apologize about the mistake there. Okay. Sark has a chance to coach a record-breaking performance this upcoming season. And I think it's at the tight end position. Now, there'll be some other guys who could potentially break some records. Hell, Xavier Worthy, I'm sure, is in some conversations to break some records too. But this is a conversation about JT Sanders. And I looked at a Pro Football Focus player ranking. They're ranking top 50 players around the country. And they actually had both JT Sanders and Xavier Worthy ranked. And they hadn't finished with the ranking. I think they were 50 through 30 or something like that. And they actually had JT Sanders ranked ahead of Xavier Worthy. And it got me to thinking, you know, if you look at JT Sanders right now and what he's already accomplished, and it's kind of under the radar, he's already in the conversation to be one of the most prolific tight ends statistically in Texas football history. I mean, think about it, guys. Last season, he had 54 receptions, most by a tight end in a single season. He had 613 receiving yards, second all-time in a single season for a tight end. 5 touchdowns. That was third all-time in a single season for a tight end. He had, and you're going to look at it, I mean, he was really close. The record for receiving yards in a single season for a tight end is David Thomas, who was just a beast. Is 1,367 yards. I mean, JT Sanders has one more good season like that. He could have that record. You also go look at most receiving yards in a single season, 637. He had 613 last year. He could easily surpass that. He should anyway. Most receiving yards in a game, that's Jermichael Finley. Shout out, 149 of those in versus Oklahoma. Nice place. That's a nice team to have it against. Most receiving yards in a season. We talked about that, David Thomas. Most receiving touchdowns in a career. That's 15 by David Thomas. That might be a little lofty, man. That's tough. He only had 5 this year. That might be tough unless he has a breakout season and has double-digit touchdowns, which he could. He's got that kind of ability. Most receiving touchdowns in a game by a tight end, DJ Grant with 3. And honestly, I think JT Sanders, if he's featured, he could get close to that record as well. You look at the Texas record for most touchdown catches in a single season for a tight end, it's 8. I think he could get close to that. And David Thomas owns the record for most catches for a tight end in a single season, in a single game and in a career. 98's the career. But like I said, JT Sanders 54 last season, he could approach that record too. So you're talking about 4 or 5 records for a tight end that JT Sanders could end up breaking or setting on the 40 acres next season. And all he needs is Sark to feature him a few times instead of X-Men. Now, I'm not asking him to target X-Man less. I'm not asking him to take targets away from X-Man. He can still get the same amount of targets, but there are ways that Sark will feature a receiver. And we've seen him in that opening script feature X-Man, 4 or 5 targets, very creative, innovative ways to get him the football. And if he does that with JT Sanders, and why he should do that is because early on, everybody's going to be game planning to stop X-Man, double covering X-Man. You're going to roll coverage his way. That's an easy one to game plan for defensively. And you know Sark wants to force feed the football to X-Man. But JT Sanders going to be matched up on what? A linebacker or a safety most of the time? Easy money. And I'll give you another stat that's crazy. If you look at Power 5 skill players on offense, you know who moves around in terms of shifts and pre-snap motions, moves around more than any other player in college football and at the Power 5 level? It's JT Sanders. JT moves around a ton. He's moved them in the backfield. He's motioning them from one side of formation to the other, putting them out in the slot, reloading them from the slot into the backfield. He moves them around so much. It's the same principle as to why the NFL cannot stop Travis Kelce. Why can't they stop Travis Kelce? Why can't they stop? Everybody knows he's getting the ball. Why can't y'all stop him? Well, he's really hard to stop because if I put my best coverage defender on Travis Kelce, I must violate the rules of my entire defense. And I'm gonna essentially destroy all the structural integrity of my defense by putting my best coverage defender on the tight end, who you can put in the backfield, you can flex them, you can put them in line, you can basically manipulate my defenders with that guy. And like I said, there are certain rules about defense. If you're depending on where the offensive players are positioned, the coverage rules and the actual designated coverage defenders are different, which is why my boy Kyle Shanahan, loves putting receivers in the backfield and putting running backs out wide because it simply violates the rules of defense. And Sark did that a little bit too. He put Jay Witt in the backfield, put X-Man in the backfield a couple of times, but I digress. Let's get back to JT Sanders. So he's got a chance to be statistically the most prolific tight end in Texas football history if Sark will feature him. And I think Sark will. Remember, Sark's on the record for saying the second most important position in his offense is tight end. Show me. You ain't had a tight end as talented as JT Sanders with the upside of JT Sanders. So show me. Don't tell me, show me. And I think this is the year he does. I think Sark is going to show us. I think he's going to showcase JT Sanders. And my wife took me, and I've been talking about tight end a while on the 40 acres. We all have been, right? It's an endangered species, and it has been for a long time on the 40 acres. Ever since Jermichael Finley, and then before that, you had to go David Thomas and Bo Scaife. But really much after those guys, you haven't had that 5-tool tight end. All right, you haven't had that 5-tool tight end. And a big part of, I think, the decline in the Texas offense over the years has been not having a tight end to help balance the offense, right? And whether it's because of injury or because of, missed evaluations on recruitments, lack of development, whatever. There's different reasons. So my wife, beautiful woman that she is, she's been expanding my horizons, and she's got me into national parks. Like, I'm big into national parks now, really into them. And she took me to Glacier. And ever since then, I've been like an old man researching national parks I want to go to around the country. That's going to become one of my things on the bucket list. And one of the articles I was reading was about Yellowstone. So I was like, I want to go to Yellowstone. And one of the articles I read was about the gray wolf being reintroduced into the ecosystem of Yellowstone because they had hunted the gray wolf to eradication, essentially across the country. And they killed the ones in Yellowstone. They were killed by employees, and it was a crazy story. But anyway, they pretty much had eradicated the gray wolf in Yellowstone, and they reintroduced it like 25 years ago. They eradicated like back in like the 20s and stuff like that. And it was obviously a lot of mythology about the gray wolf and stalking, and killing livestock and this kind of stuff. But we're not getting deep into that. What they found, though, after they reintroduced it into the ecosystem, and the domino effect was unbelievable. It affected so many different subspecies and different species within the wilderness, within the ecosystem. I'll give you one example. Essentially, the elk and the deer populations just ballooned, right? Because you didn't have the wolves out hunting them. So they were basically just kind of walking around doing whatever the hell they wanted to do. And they didn't they did not follow the same migration patterns they were following because they didn't have to run from the damn wolves. Do what the hell we want to do. And essentially the top predator became coyotes, which some coyotes, unless they're in the pack, they couldn't even take down some of these big elk and some of these big deer. So the big elk and the big deer, they would essentially overgraze. They would overgraze on all the willows and all of the aspens, these different trees and bushes and different things within the wilderness. But the crazy part about it, that actually affected the songbirds because they didn't have a habitat to nest in because they would overgraze and then they wouldn't have like a full bush or a tree that was healthy and that was full enough for them to nest in. So their numbers declined. Right, the songbirds, their numbers dropped, and also the same willows and aspens and some of that greenery, the shrubs and all this, that stuff that was also used by beavers to build their dams. And the beavers didn't have enough material to build the dams, so their dams were subpar. And the dams were actually provided shade that would help cool the waterways and the streams in Yellowstone. And because they didn't cool the streams, the temperature of the water increased and it killed a lot of the marine life in the streams and in the water supply of Yellowstone because the temperature increased. Oh man, it got all kinds of deep. And when they reintroduced the wolf, it solved all those problems. Just reintroducing the wolf solved everything because they went back to hunting the deer and the elk. So they weren't overgrazing on all the trees and the willows and the aspens. So the beavers had plenty of supplies to build their dams. And then the birds had places to nest. And then the water was cooled and shaded and the marine life was flourishing and all this stuff. The ecosystem was balanced once again, all because they just dropped the top predator off in the ecosystem. And it was necessary. That is what, so we're talking about endangered species and what they can do once they're reintroduced into the ecosystem. That's what a 5-tool tight end can do for the ecosystem of the Texas offense. It has been lacking balance for years. It's been lacking that balance so that it could flourish, so that it can function in its ideal way. And I think having a JT Sanders, that endangered species, now back in our ecosystem, that offense is about to flourish more so than we've ever seen it. That's kind of my theory on it. So sorry for the lesson about the Yellowstone ecosystem, but I just wanted to throw that out there because that's what it reminds me of, man. And I'm really excited about JT Sanders. I think he's going to break. I'm predicting it. Black Showdown's prediction. I'm throwing it out there. He's going to set at least, I'll go 3. I'll be modest. He's going to set at least 3 tight end records this year. Hell, it probably should be closer to 5. I'm going to say 3. I would get as cocky as to pick those 3. I'm just going to say 3. Yeah. So, and I know Sark, he doesn't build the passing game through the tight end. I think you should make an exception for this guy because he's worth it. He is worth it, no question. All right, there you go. A segment in the helmet. That's a beautiful thing. There you go. I didn't think, honestly, I thought I was gonna sweat. I sweat the first like 2 minutes, but as y'all can see, your boy got comfortable real fast. I used to spend hours in this damn thing. Yeah, it's comfortable now. It's like being back in my old days, man. Like back in my Sex Panther days. This is pretty good. I like this. All right. I guess I'm just gonna ride out the show in the helmet. I don't even see no reason to take it off now. We're just gonna ride out the show with it. We got a few more minutes, so we'll ride the show. But I thank you guys for the super chat, though. The super chat love, so that I would be inspired to put on the helmet. We might have to do that more often, man. We might have to do that more often. And thank you for the kind words too. Appreciate you guys, man. We're working hard. The show will get better. This is my second day being on YouTube. I've never been on the platform before. I love the platform, though. It's great. It's interactive. I can see the comments, can talk to you guys. So I do love the format. So we're going to get it popping. And when football season get going, we ain't going to have enough time. I guarantee you that. We won't have enough time to get to everything, to all the questions. And that's what I'm looking forward to because we're going to have so much on the plate. Hopefully, we're talking about dubs. I went to a speaking event last night, and they asked me to play the schedule game for Texas. I had them at 10 wins. I ended up with the only losses being at Bama. And I did say my caveat was right now I'll take Bama, but I guarantee you by game time, I'll be leaning more Texas. I can psych myself into it by then. I'll psych myself into it by then. Y'all know that, man. But I'll basically do the breakdown where I can have Texas winning that game. And I don't see Texas can win that game. We ain't going to drink too much Kool-Aid yet, but Texas can win that game. And the only reason I say they can is because Alabama's got a brand new OC, a brand new DC, and they don't even know the hell their quarterback's going to be right now. I know he's the GOAT. That's a lot of turnover. That's a lot of new faces in crucial positions. So we got time to get into that, and we will dive into that. That will be like later on. All right, we'll dive into it. But I had Texas State, so I had the other loss. I think I had K-State actually as a loss. It's weird that Sark has beaten Chris Kleiman the 2 years he's been here, and yet Chris Kleiman has proven that he is probably the best coach, if not one of the best coaches in the Big 12. And he had they won the Big 12 last season and held Texas last season. That was a great win for Texas. That was one of Sark's big wins, beating K-State on the road. I beat K-State on the road in 2002. That ain't easy to do. And I don't give a damn who coaching. That purple kryptonite, that ain't easy to overcome. So that was a big win. But I said this, full disclosure, guys. I did say if K-State started Will Howard in that game, I think they'd have won that game. They didn't. It started Adrian Martinez, and after that started Will Howard. That was my take at the time. But that's who I had Texas losing to. So I had them 10-2. But I think there'll be 2 losses. I just don't know where they are. And they beat Bama. Then I'm going to become more paranoid about where the loss will be. Because they beat Bama, then they shouldn't lose another game. That's the curse of beating Bama. The curse of beating Bama will be, well, if you beat Bama, the standard is you ain't supposed to lose another game because that's the toughest opponent on your schedule. Now, the flip side of that is they probably spent all offseason, 3 months plus, preparing for that Alabama game because they know how big it is. And we know that because essentially that Gary Patterson but admitted that last year they spent extra time on that game in the offseason. By the way, get Gary Patterson back on track. That would also help. That would be tremendous if they could get Gary Patterson back. We don't know if that's going to end up being the case. So I got them 10-2, just full disclosure, so y'all can know exactly where I got the Longhorns. But I got them 10-2, losing to K-State. So 1 loss in conference, and then you get to avenge that loss in the Big 12 title game against K-State. That's how it's supposed to play out if the gods will let it be. Okay. I know that we got to get out of here. I want to thank you guys again. It always flies by because it's so much fun. And I got to tell you, we might have some more helmet segments. You guys are willing to pay. Hey, I'm willing to play. That's always been my motto. If they pay, then I will play. That's how we do it. All right. Thank you guys for joining us once again. Tomorrow we'll be back for another Rodcast. Shout out to my man Blake working behind the scenes. He is the real MVP. We appreciate him, man, and all of his hard work. And we appreciate you guys for participating. Come back and join us tomorrow for another edition of the Rodcast. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here